Hello, everyone, and welcome. Oh, chat! God damn it! Why is chat not working?
What?
Ruined the intro.
I blame Streamlabs for this. Why is this not? Wait, is that? Oh no, that's not chat. That fucked up. That is actually the background video. I was wondering what the fuck was going on there. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, there.
Oh.
It actually clicked
Okay.
over. All right, we're okay. We're okay. God, I'm so happy I learned that I could just alt and click things to crop them. It's so much more convenient.
Nice.
Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Team Jacked podcast. I am your host, Raymond McNeil. Joining me, as always, is well, actually, there are two Kaisers here. Oops, that's not supposed to be happening.
I was about to say, somebody pointed out in chat, and I looked up and I was like, wait, what?
Look, you may have noticed that we're actually down a host today. Judgmental decided to take a little bit of R&R with Rambo, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
we're down her, and it led to scuff. It led to scuff everywhere, and I blame Kaiser for it.
It is not my fault.
What I like about this is that he has such a delay on his end that it looks like it's taking a moment for him to process what I'm saying, when I know that's not the case.
I don't know why. I don't know why there's like a weird delay going on either. Like it's not the Blue Yeti. And this doesn't. I don't think this even happened like in the last stream either. There wasn't even a delay at all.
Well,
so I
didn't you
don't
say
even
that
know.
it had something to do with you
Well, I'm
using
using.
the browser version
Yeah.
as opposed to
Oh, that's
But
probably
I'm using the desktop version now, and I don't
Oh.
know if there's still a delay or not. Yeah.
Teddy Bear Paladin already donating. Boogeyman voice.
Holy shit.
We are formless, given shape and presence by youngling streams, for there is no greater monster than that of one's own creation. Do mind the change that slipped under your bed.
Ooh.
Creepy. And of
Very
course,
creepy.
Wow.
the wonderful Twilight Guardian. It's a just immediately segue away from that.
Hello. This will be the last week that I'll have this set up because by tomorrow or the next day, I should have my new laptop. Yay!
Yay!
I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
So today's gonna
Yeah, that's great.
today's gonna be a more relaxed stream. Kaiser, have you gotten into the watch together? It's in the group chat.
Yeah, I'm already here.
So it's Twilight that's not here.
What?
You're not in the watch together.
No, I am. Rude.
Who is user? There's only one user in here other than me. User RTEMO.
Are you sure you're not
Oh,
in cast?
I just didn't. I went
Oh, you
into
didn't
the
pick a
page.
name yet. Okay.
I didn't pick a name yet.
Oh.
Sorry.
I was like, I was sure that she entered here. I was sure, like, I knew she said that she entered, but all right. So we're gonna have a bit more.
Liar.
We're gonna have a more relaxed stream today. We're not gonna be going insane over nitpicking Ruby. We're just gonna sit back, relax, and talk about a
For
show that
once.
we all ended up relatively liking, which was Avatar's adaptation. Sorry, Netflix's adaptation of Avatar: The Last
Avatar's
Airbender.
adaptation.
To be fair,
Yes.
Avatar's adaptation of Netflix would probably be better than Netflix's adaptation of Avatar. I'm not gonna
More
lie.
than likely, yeah. And hopefully this time, especially since this time it would include the original writers, and possibly Aaron Ehas as well. But you know,
But what we're going to be doing today is I tried to go out there because, you know, with as a show as controversial as a live action Avatar: The Last Airbender, I knew there had to have been some negative critiques of the show that were unwarranted. And to my surprise, most people reasonably were actually rather chill about it. They were they admitted they were very clear, like we were, that it was not as good as the original series. And they
Right.
probably had a more harsh edge than we ended up having about towards it. However, I still persevered, and while I didn't find outright negative criticisms, I did find ones that were titled as outright negative criticisms, and ones that had some weird takes in there. One including the one that stood out to me in this coming video is one involving Zuko. And the one in the next video, which hopefully we'll get to, we'll see. We should be able to move at a pretty good clip today. Has to do with the
these
nature.
videos are relatively short.
Yeah, and the second one has to do with the nature of adaptations in general, which I find interesting, if not misled, and I would like to have a conversation about it at the very least and get people's thoughts on it. So
okay, pre-watcher.
Well, I have to make sure what we're watching is interesting. I mean, even then, there's going to be a lot of us going through this video and the next.
I'm yanking your feathers. All right.
I know, but I just want to make it clear we're going to be going through this video, and there's going to be things that we agree with quite frequently, I imagine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
First up on our list is I would argue, potentially poorly titled, Netflix's Avatar is Terrible by Actual Justice Warrior.
Oh, I heard of this guy before.
I have never heard of this man. So
I have heard of him before, yeah. I might have watched one or two of his videos, I think a while ago. I don't remember. I was scrolling through his video list and I couldn't find anything that I've actually watched. So it might not have even been on this account.
Damn.
I'm pretty sure I watched like maybe a couple of his stuff. But it was like a while ago.
Yeah.
Oh
my god, I've been scrolling for a while and I'm only at 5 months ago. So
damn.
All right, well, let's hop into it. Netflix's Avatar is terrible.
It's finally here. Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action series produced by Netflix. And guess what? It's about what I expected, which was not very much at all whatsoever. Now, don't get...
Immediately. I just need the Chris. What did you title your video? Netflix's Avatar is terrible? And yet...
Fucking click.
And yeah, I was going to say, this is...
Fucking clickbait.
You want to look at clickbait. This is clickbait.
This is
prime clickbait.
What?
I'm not seeing anything.
Oh no! Oh fuck!
I'm seeing it on my end.
Well, her computer is also like from the Cretaceous period, so
I was gonna say.
Well, no, it's not from the Cretaceous period. That would be the computers that we grew up with. I would say that this is more the Paleogenic period. Maybe the early
or pale.
Nerd!
I'm being bullied, chat.
Right out of the gate, just outright bullying from the very start.
It was 50-50 whether or not she was going to try and correct me about what era it was from.
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like it was more than 50%, which makes me feel like this was targeted bullying. You knew this was gonna happen. This was a setup. This was a setup if I ever seen one.
Oh.
I am being bullied. I'm being abused.
All right, well, let's try and figure out this technical problem.
It just popped up. I don't know if it's gonna be if I'm gonna be like severely delayed.
I don't think so. I think all you need to do is refresh the page and it should fix itself.
I'll roll it back to 0-0 and see what happens. How's that sound?
Okay.
Yeah, too. Also, Deaderex, he sounds like a Diet Mother's basement. Ouch.
Ooh.
Holy shit. That's a murder.
I was gonna say
we just saw a crime scene.
There was a Mother's Basement video that I looked at, and for one, it was like an hour long, I want to say. And
oh, God.
I remember it wasn't very interesting.
It's finally here. Avatar.
I mean, most of his videos aren't, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
The Last Airbender, the live-action series produced by Netflix, and guess what? It's about what I expected, which was not very much at all whatsoever. Now, don't get me wrong, there are positives in this series. I will go over the positives in this series. It's definitely better than the M. Night Shyamalan movie, but the thing is, fundamentally, you shouldn't be adapting animation to live action because there are certain stories that just work better when they're animated.
Oh, I forgot that he also has the same talking point as the next dude.
Oh,
so we might get a double
Oh.
whammy. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, I completely forgot this was in here because I got focused on the weird Zuko point he tries to make later, which I think all of us are going to be confused by. But this will be a major talking point later. Just keep it in the back of your heads because I imagine we all have some words to say about what he just said there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a surprise tool that will help us later.
Yeah.
Like to a certain degree, I would say that I agree with him. However, that's
Mhm.
usually because there are a lot of things that can more easily be done with animation, and it'll become more expensive and more difficult
Right.
to do when you transfer it over to live action. Not that it's impossible to do it, especially
Yeah.
nowadays when we have all of this technology that we
This
have.
crazy CGI shit, yeah.
Yeah, with CGI and with the advancements in VFX. Vancouver actually recently got a big studio that was made that all of the panels on the inside can show these amazing backgrounds so that you don't have to put the backgrounds in post.
Oh, it got a
like that.
volume.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Vancouver recently got a building like that so that
That's good
they're
shit.
when they're filming they can have like better film quality and stuff
Well,
like that.
I really love the volume as a piece of technology, but
Mm-hmm.
Disney in particular, with a lot of its Disney Plus shows, have abused the fuck out of it already. Like, it's actually
Yes.
amazing the speed run of like, we have this cool new technology that'll really help us to, my God, they're using the volume. I am sick of this. It's like the early years of CGI.
Yeah.
Remember the early years of CGI where you would have people
Yes.
over rely on it, and
Everyone wanted to use it.
Everyone wanted to use it.
Everybody.
and it was just abused to shit. And now, like, that CGI
Dude,
for the longest
they
time got a
grabbed on
really
that
negative
bitch faster than the freaking gold rush. That shit dried up faster than the fucking gold
So
rush,
like
guy.
I'm excited for the future of the volume because I imagine there's going to be smarter filmmakers that will make better use of it. But my God, we're living in that desolate time where it's
Yeah.
not being used well in a lot of properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
with Vancouver isn't really a place where studios in Vancouver make their own stuff and use their own volume. It's Americans coming up to Canada because it's cheaper to film in Canada, specifically in Vancouver. That's why I had to constantly be aware every single time I went to school whether or not I would accidentally be stepping onto a set.
I mean,
Jesus.
That's happened to me a couple of
I don't
times.
think it's just Americans.
Oh
though.
my
I'm
God.
pretty sure is CW American or Canadian owned. I'm not entirely sure actually.
I'm pretty
CW,
sure
I think-
it's
I'm pretty sure
CW is
it's
American.
American.
Yeah.
I just know that it basically might as well be Canadian owned with how much they filmed in
Well,
Vancouver.
Everybody
Yeah.
films in Vancouver because all of the American studios get like a big tax break when filming up in Canada. That's why
Correct.
practically everything that you see is, even though that it says that the city is supposed to take place in whatever American city that it is, you're going to likely be seeing Vancouver, not that
Yeah,
city.
very few of them are actually very few like television.
Kaiser, you okay there, buddy? You cut
Oh,
out,
no.
and you're still silent.
Oh, dear.
While he's dying, M3D says, it just depends on the show. Like, Death Note could absolutely be turned live action and be good. Netflix is just full of smooth-brained individuals. Hey, Netflix Death Note was hilarious. Like, me and Fat Man, you should watch our reaction to that. We love that film. It's not like Netflix. It's not actually Death Note. But for what it is, it's genuinely fucking funny. I love that
Oh
film.
yeah, if you just want to like have some laughs with it, like look at it a similar way as The Room, it's great. But like as I was trying to say earlier, and yeah, I was just saying that like yeah, there are very few programs that are actually set in the city that like whatever story they have is set in, like The Wire, for example. That's
Yeah.
actually like they actually filmed that in Baltimore City and Maryland and shit.
But
The, like we were talking about, it depends on what kind of cartoon that it is. And it also
Yes,
depends on the kind of technology and how much money that you're willing to throw at the project. But
right.
there is going to be something that is inevitably going to be lost from it, unless if somebody is dedicated to making a true one-to-one trans one-to-one remake of the cartoon.
in which case,
But
you
then,
need to ask the question of what's the point then as well.
yeah, I was just about to say that
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah, at that
inevitably get
point.
people who are going to say, well, what was even the point of that?
So the counterpoint, like not the counterpoint,
Right.
but like to add on to that is, it is true that you lose something in transition from animation to live action and vice versa, but you also gain things in translation between those two mediums. So a good example of this
Right.
is micro expressions, like on faces, characters in the background.
Yes.
You can have freaking extras acting their asses off. Whereas in animation, to save budget, you might just have a static crowd or having very minimal movement. You can have these
Pretty
little
much.
details that help flesh out the world and the characters. You have background elements that don't need to be drawn every single frame, that sort of thing, that you can just have in
Yeah,
the
not
background moving. Like,
yeah. And not to mention actually to add on that point really, it kind of depends on what story on like which animated show you're talking about because there are clearly some that can definitely work in live action almost if not just as well as in animation. Like I would imagine if someone wanted to make like for example, somebody mentioned in chat the Rurouni Kenshin live action movies. From what I remember, those are pretty solid and they
they
fit
are.
mostly well a bit better with like the sort of dour tone that the series has more than it's more in line with the trust and betrayal style of tone that they have, which works.
Yeah, I remember I've only watched the
Also,
first one of those. I need to watch the rest.
yeah, I think I only saw like I think I saw the two of them. I think there's three of them.
There are
Right?
three. I know they
There's three of
cover
'em.
major moments in the entire series.
Right.
So yeah, let's continue on here.
And live action in that regard can be an inferior art form, and best case scenario, you're going to have something that's almost as good as the animation.
Not
However, with this
inferior.
Netflix show,
Different.
Different.
Yeah, it kind of depends on like how that is done really. Because I can't you cannot sit here and tell me that like I don't know, for example, The Dark Knight Rises, right? Everybody loves that movie, probably the best Batman live action movie we got. I would never say that that is inferior to say Batman Beyond Return of the Joker just because Return of the Joker is in animation. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, I would say this. Like, I could even go even more extreme with this.
Oh,
If
let's
they were
go.
to adapt Avatar: The Last Airbender into I'm using this esque, it's a very clear esque, not exactly one for one, but like a CW esque like
Okay.
teenage high school drama show. But they got the best fucking writers possible, and not only did they somehow manage to translate every major character arc into this high school setting and then do it really damned well. Sure, it may not be a one-to-one adaptation, but somehow they made a good show off of that
Yeah.
transferred concept. It's why a lot of fan fiction can work. Is
Mhm.
Actually,
What?
it's funny that you mention that because like that's sort of what happened between the original X-Men cartoon and X-Men Evolution that came out like, you know, a decade or two after that point. It's still an animation, but they just age down the characters and have it mostly be set like during their high school stuff, but it works really well and fits with X-Men's tone and story.
I know very little about X-Men, but I'll take your word for it.
Oh, I loved X-Men Evolution.
That was my shit, bro.
It was my shit too. Like I watched the original cartoon when it came out in the early 90s. But that was actually part of the reason why I watched X-Men Evolution, but oh my god, X-Men Evolution was so good. I love it so much.
It's really good. I rewatched like one episode earlier today, and it still holds up so well.
We could put that on the list, Raymond.
Maybe. The
I'll do that.
Definitely.
the sorry, I'm getting hung up on my idea. I'm trying to think of the final battle between Azula and Zuko, but it's like on the football field, and I don't know.
Dude, imagine Top's entrance. What that would be like in a high school.
Dude, underground fighting ring at a high school? That shit happens.
Yeah.
That to be fair, like that they did do that with freaking Riverdale, so they could probably get away with that. If they
Okay,
want to.
Riverdale is a weird fucking series.
It is a mess. It is a mess.
You have something that is nowhere near as good as the animation. Now, we're going to get into this. I'm going to break this down. But before I do, I want to thank everybody who signed up on actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform. So right off the bat, I do want to say that there are positives, and that's what I want to cover in the open of this. And a lot of the positives actually have to do with the casting of this series. The actor that plays Zuko, I never wanted a live-action version of this character or any of these characters, but if you're going to get somebody to do it, he does an excellent job in that role.
I will say that was a common go-to
Yes.
point that a lot of people could comfortably point to is the casting in this show was excellent.
Oh, the
Yeah,
casting
very
in
much so.
In Netflix was phenomenal.
Casting of
Yeah.
Daniel Day Kim as Fire Lord Ozai. He looks menacing. He looks villainous. He got in shape for this role. I can respect the hell out of it. They did an excellent job in that department. And the character that plays Sokka looks a lot like
the character
Sokka,
that plays
sounds like
Sokka.
Sokka. You couldn't have
The
found a
character.
better live
All
action.
right.
I,
Dog.
I understand
Okay,
it was a slip, buddy.
just because he has a massive chin doesn't mean he's a cartoon, okay?
Just because he looks like a cartoon character.
Person to play that
Yeah.
role. It is very
Well,
unfortunate
the
that
reason
his
why he looks like a cartoon character makes him perfect to play a cartoon character.
Exactly.
But also,
True.
somebody pointed out that he actually looks more
like the Ember Island player.
yeah,
who
like
played
the Ember
Sokka.
Island
Yeah.
actor who played
Everybody,
Sokka.
dude, everybody's been pointing that out on like Twitter and shit. It's so funny.
It is funny.
character is so underwritten in this series. On top of that, you have Suki. You couldn't have found a better live action person to play that role. It is very unfortunate that his character is so underwritten in this series.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
not a take that I would agree with.
think?
Because of anything, I would say that Sokka is potentially overwritten in this.
I was about
Yeah.
to say, yeah.
Like he gets.
If
a
anything, they play him
lot.
up a little too much.
He
If
gets a little
anything,
bit too
actually-
much.
Yeah, if anything, I would actually say that in a lot of ways, Sokka takes like the role that Katara did in the original
Well,
show.
yeah,
a lot
no,
of
they
ways.
make the analogies to him being the father of the group much more overt. Like what he's not only the comic relief, he's also the strategic leader of the team. He's got 2 romances through the course of the story, including the third one off screen that we never get to see, but whatever. He's got an entire arc about his father being disappointed in him, and that being a massive point of upset and for him, trauma or whatever you want to call it. And he's got the whole warrior versus mechanist thing going on. So
Yeah,
like he's got
they stole a lot of what Katara had and gave it to Sokka, and did nothing to give Katara anything.
yeah, Katara is honestly the one that gets robbed the most in this series.
and yet they're like, oh well, we're taking away Sokka's sexism because we don't want to have a character be sexist, but also we're gonna take away a lot of the Katara fighting for like being feminist and stuff like that because that's also overdone. But we're not gonna give her anything to replace it, which uh, it is really bad.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like
why
you guys just
would
gave
you
up there.
why would you just leave the main character of the show
You know what you
with
could have
absolutely
given her?
fucking nothing?
You know what you could have given her that would have been nice, and you could have then given also to Aang, and would have actually helped build their relationship going forward? What you could have given them is Aang is still a child at heart, and we keep that element of his character instead of excising it entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But the entire idea that, Katara was maybe this kind of stoic, serious character, not maybe not the mothering thing, maybe not the whole feminist thing, but she's just, very serious, down to earth. She doesn't know how to have fun as a kid, but Aang brings that out in her. She gets to be a kid for a little while she is with Aang, because he's there, and it's like you get this like dynamic between the two. You could have
Well, I
that.
think that would work better if she had the mothering role,
Oh, that
because
too, definitely.
mothers can be seen as stern and no nonsense, and Aang can bring out the child within her.
Well,
And
I'm saying if we have
also-
to get rid of the whole motherhood thing, but like
yeah, but I hate that idea because some people have this idea that, oh, well, you have to get rid of anything that is feminine about a female character because that is sexist and that is problematic. But what you end up doing is either you make them a bland nothing character or you just turn them into a man without a penis.
Yes.
Like,
On top of that,
I'm sorry, but like there's nothing inherently wrong with a female character having a mothering personality. There is nothing wrong with a female character liking girly things. There is nothing wrong with a female character having a gentle and soft element to her. There's nothing wrong with these things. It's not cliche. That's how a lot of women are. And by taking that away, you are robbing a lot of female characters from their humanity, because you don't often replace them with anything if you're doing an adaptation. I'm getting off my green mouse now.
I was it someone that suggested I should actually put a green stool in
Yeah.
I should have
with
thought about
darker
that.
green with darker green polka dots.
Sounds like Sokka. You couldn't have found a better live action person to play that role. It is very unfortunate that his character is so underwritten in this series. On top of that, you have Suki from the Kyoshi Warriors, an absolutely beautiful girl. Like, let's be real, they did a good job with that particular casting as well. And even though I'm going to rail against a bunch of pointless changes that they made in this series, there's one change that they made, and that is Zuko actually has his ship crewed by the same division that he saved in that war meeting from being slaughtered when he protested against them being used as essentially a distraction, cannon fodder, in order to get killed, crewing his ship, which leads to a situation where they all discover they owe their lives to Zuko, and the reason he has his face burned is because he wasn't willing to let them all get massacred just to be a distraction, just to win one victory in the Earth Kingdom. That's actually the one change throughout the whole course of the series that benefited it positively, but as far as good things related to the series, that's about it.
Well, yeah, first of all, that was an excellent change. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say it's the only change they made that benefited the series, but it's definitely the biggest.
Yeah, and I know that there are some friends of ours that made fun of that.
That was a choice of
But
theirs.
yeah, Romelia sent me fan art that a friend of his drew making fun of that scene, and I just I just didn't really know how to respond to it. I'm just like I'm glad you found that funny, I guess. I don't know what else to say.
Uh Kaiser, are you okay? You talking?
Uh-oh. Did
I
we
was
lose Kaiser again?
I was
Do
going to
we
say I think we've lost Kaiser again.
do we need to get this robot a serious upgrade? Like, is his iOS in
Hello?
need of an upgrade?
Hello? Am I
You
coming in?
are. Hello.
What the fuck happened? I thought a second ago y'all could hear me, but now I don't know. I don't know what happened. I feel like it's Discord because when I just selected my what was it? The output again for my Blue Yeti, it picks up again.
Your
So it's like, I don't know.
your AndroS needs updating,
What?
Kaiser.
Okay, Doke says, I actually hate that addition because they never clarified if Zuko changed the war consul's mind, meaning he could have just doomed some other crew in their place. But that's not the point.
Right.
Because we already know that the entire Fire Nation is full of assholes. Like,
Yeah.
we know that. We have confirmation of that. But what it's reflective of is Zuko's character. He stood up for it, and it doesn't matter what the result was. It mattered that he stood up for his principles and then kept on going. So
Well,
it's
not only that, but that's not a significant change from the cartoon to the live action. He still stood up for the fact that these were new recruits in the cartoon series.
Pretty much.
The objection that he had was specifically that these were new recruits.
Yeah.
So if by in the live action show, by having the Fire Lord take the 41st Division and put them on Zuko's ship, that may not have necessarily guaranteed that another new recruit division didn't get slaughtered, but it also doesn't mean that a more experienced division didn't go in there and thus have a slightly better chance of survival.
Right.
Is it? Well, the scene is kind of wonky at the end because the lieutenant has to stare, but we are the division instead of just finding out naturally, but still amazing. And it's for one of the common critiques of the show, and it's very fair, is the dialogue. I think that's a very
Yes.
strong running theme throughout the entire critique sphere of this show. The dialogue. Apparently, this is didn't mean the microphone. Okay, good. This is apparently something that affected the Percy Jackson show too. I saw it in one of the other reviews that I scanned through.
Yeah.
Is
I watched a couple episodes of it, and the dialogue just doesn't do itself any favors, except when Percy's mom is in them. Typically, those have to have.
And
decent
actually,
dialogue.
that's kind of applies here. There's a lot of characters that can actually work through a lot of the jankier lines.
Yeah.
I thought Lieutenant G actually while the dialogue itself was kind of clunky, Lieutenant G's acting I thought was enough to carry through. Like, this guy was like putting the
Yes.
pieces together in his mind. Like, we are the 41st Division. Oh, and like. What I like is, like, he didn't like explicitly say, "Oh, he saved us from death" or anything like that. Like, they could have done that. They could have gotten worse with it, but they held back. So,
To a
For
certain
once.
degree, when it comes to writing like this, you're going to inevitably have a certain degree of exposition that is going to be in your writing no matter what. If you have
Mhm.
if you have no exposition in your story, then you're not going to be able to convey anything in your story at all. And then your readers or your viewers are just going to get confused. Hello, Ereka 7 High Evolution 3. What are you doing?
Jesus, yeah. By the way, we finished. We finally finished our tour through Eureka 7.
I was going to.
Yeah.
I was also gonna say hello, Fate Unlimited Blade Works.
Yeah.
Oh Christ! Don't get me started. Look, Fate Zero is the only good Fate property, and that's
Yes.
that's like a 5 out of 10, guys.
and it's still bad. When
I would call it
heard-
mid, if I'm being honest. I wouldn't call it bad,
It's
but
really
it's
bad.
mid.
I did not want to watch past. I think we stopped in the middle of episode
Dude,
2.
Oh my god! Yeah, episode 2 was so bad.
I was gonna say a huge
Don't-
problem is
anyways.
it's very slow to start. Very fucking slow to start.
the dialogue in that show has some of the worst expository, like word salad bullshit imaginable.
I
Pete,
will
you know what I'm
never-
talking about.
I will never forgive that show for having a scene with a really boring exposition scene and then immediately after have the exact same fucking exposition given to us in a better
Yes! Yes! Oh, bad.
way. That it's so bad.
Raymond, I raise you a Fate Apocrypha. If you disagree, it's time to duel. I know nothing about Fate beyond.
I did. You're coping.
Yeah.
I do.
I was gonna say
I do. You're coping.
The two Fate things that I am familiar with are the original Fate Stay Night anime and Fate Zero. Fate Stay Night original is terrible. It's actually and weirdly the scenes that get brought up the most are actually some of the least bad about it. Like my favorite to bring up is always the people die when they are killed scene, which a lot of people make fun of that scene because it sounds ridiculous, but it's literally the character joking about the nature, like people aren't dying, but they should die when they are killed. And if I die, that's just how things have to be. Like he's acknowledging that shit's gotten ridiculous, which is like one of the most real moments in the series. And I think that's why unintentionally it gets memed on, because it's like a character like having a rational thought in that show and fans can't take it.
But yeah, Josh, you're coping. Grab your Yu-Gi-Oh cards and meet me outside in an hour.
And they say the Purple Eyes Fate Zero bridged. Oh God,
I remember that. Yeah, that's so funny.
Man, I'm so sad. Don't remind me about Purple Eyes for the win, man. I miss that guy. I wish he would come back and finish Code Geass.
Me too. But either
Also,
way,
you're
actually,
gonna have
what
to
you
wait
brought
a
up.
bit longer than an hour to fight this guy because you're just gonna still be in the stream.
Yeah, but before we move on, just quickly round this out. Going with what Raymond just said about one scene that might have been clunky on paper actually being all right, but because I think it has the same disease as like that scene in this show, the Netflix Avatar, because on its own it's okay, like it's fine, like the lieutenant just feeling like, oh shit, that was our division, like it's a tiny bit clunky, but it isn't that bad. I think the real issue is that it comes off even worse than it actually is because the rest of the show's dialogue is even more bad, even more clunky.
It is weird how moments of quality in an otherwise in either clunky shows or in bad shows can be treated as bad because it's suddenly waking people up to quality of things.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I love talking about Ruby.
Fate Zero is so weird, but yeah, the fact is one of the better series. It's one of the better series, isn't greatest.
He's saying Fate is weird, but the fact that it's the best of the other Fate anime isn't great.
Okay, I worry it's meant to replace the Zuko alone arc since he's giving them right away. Was Zuko alone in season 1 or was it season 2?
It was season 1. In fact, actually no, Zuko alone.
I was gonna say, although I understand people do have fears about that, like the way they've condensed things. Yeah. I understand, there are anxieties about it, but I have some faith, and I think if they learn the criticisms from this show, and we now confirm they're doing books 2 and 3, I think we'll see something equivalent, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
If they condense things correctly, it can work, but it's very easy to fuck up.
Also, Iroh, I know a lot of people are saying the guy who plays him is pretty good, but the thing is, Iroh in the animation is a special, unique character, and that guy's about as good as you could be with a live-action version, but you can never truly bring out the spirit of that character in live action, in my opinion.
That's not true.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That's not true at all.
Like that was one of the thoughts that I was like, okay, this video I think needs to be on this list. Like what? I wish we had him here because I would like to ask him to elaborate on what he means. Is it?
Yeah.
What about the okay? There's one point where you could probably make an argument, which is it was originally performed by Mako, and that's a role that's like so. But even then, we had Mako's understudy fill the role very well, very respectfully. And while I
Mhm.
I definitely did notice the difference in voice, it's such a it wasn't as noticeable. And I think this guy, it's more the material he was given, especially early on, wasn't lighthearted
Yeah.
enough for what we kind of expected of him. But he served the role as Uncle Iroh damned well.
Relatively
Mhm.
well. Like I think I said this in the previous stream with all of us and Mac, that like the actor is really good. The issue the issue with Iroh's overall performance really in this show, at least in my opinion, is that the problem with the general dialogue. Despite the show being so boring, a lot of the time the dialogue is so like quick, compared to like how it
Yeah,
is in the original show.
Yeah.
there's
And
not a
it's
lot of time.
very telling. It's very telling with Iroh. You watch scenes with Iroh in the original show, there's a little bit of a rhythm to his voice. You kind of notice. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
even, kind of shows off that wise old man kind of deal. Iroh in this show doesn't do that very well. But that can easily be fixed by just changing, because
The
that's a
dialogue.
directing
It's
issue.
a dialogue and directing
Just change
issue.
the dialogue and
Because
voice
this
directing.
guy
Not voice
sells
directing, sound
Iroh.
directing.
Admittedly,
Yes.
the big concern that I think a lot of people have is we're not going to get like the Tales of Bossing Say, which I could definitely see we're probably not going to get. I can understand
Yeah.
that. And I think a lot of people were like disappointed that we got a lot of the reveal about his son this early on in the story. The more and more I've
Yes.
reflected on it, the more and more I'm okay with it, because then you can actually make season 2 more about him trying to drag Zuko into a peaceful life in Ba Sing Se, and of course that betrayal. I think focusing more on their dynamic there and having established his backstory here.
I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, because I think that you could do a lovely parallel in season 2 with him trying to drag Zuko into a peaceful life in Ba Sing Se, while also revealing to us the reason why he's so desperate to get Zuko to drop everything.
No, true. I mean that was part of the reason that it was there in the original. I'm thinking of the terms of how they have to condense things. I'm wondering if they front loaded it here because they might not have time to achieve it in the second season. That's what I'm kind of wondering about.
I
Yeah.
don't really want to be a little bit cynical with this, but I kind of wonder if the reason why they front loaded it was because they weren't sure if they were going to get seasons 2 and 3, like with Shyamalan.
Yeah, there's that too. Which, God, can you imagine the director being like, "Ah, damn, we could have saved that."
Yeah.
Yes.
It did. However, the flip side is it led to some of the best scenes in the show. Like the
It
funeral
did.
was so touching, and I love the motif of the background playing "Leaves from the Vine." It was the one time that I thought the music was actually restrained and respectful.
Yeah. But like, wouldn't that have been so much better if they had that scene around the time when maybe they're having another argument because Zuko just can't let things go, and he's trying to just have Zuko stay in Ba Sing Se and just be a normal person.
Hmm.
A lot of fun.
Also,
a lot to think on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that, like, I had my small criticisms of Iroh's portrayal in here. It has nothing to do with the actor so much
No.
as the direction that the writers took for him. Because
Which is fair. Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
sorry.
the reason why Iroh was such a lovable character was that he was wise, but he was also silly. And the reason
Yeah.
why he was silly was because he was very desperate to
Cope.
take life
Yes.
day by day, to enjoy life in the moment rather than to focus on these things that would drag you down.
But
Yeah.
you hearing all of this, actual Justice Warrior, at the off chance you actually view this part, not name any part of our criticisms that have anything to do with animation. You can
Yeah.
easily have this work in animation. mentor characters have worked this way for eons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Now, on to the bad. Now, from the opening scene of this show, I knew that we were going to have major problems. So, the opening run of this series, for some ungodly reason, takes place 100 years in the past, before the Firebenders wipe out the Air Nomads, and it's a chase scene at night of the Firebenders chasing an Earthbender with a message that needs to be delivered. This is very Star Wars-y, it's very on the nose, and it's incredibly stupid. Also, all the information that is communicated in this opening
I
scene
wouldn't say that
is
it's
information
necessarily
that is
stupid, but it was very confusing.
It was. I have some thoughts once he
little
gets to
bit.
his final conclusion on this, because like he's missing something, I think.
better communicated in the opening of each episode of Avatar, where they talk about the four nations living in peace and everything changing when the Fire Nation attacks, because basically Sozin gives this false intelligence that the Fire Nation is going to invade the Earth Kingdom, and it's all a trap to get them distracted so he can actually kill the Air Nomads, and none of this needed to be explained for as long and as thoroughly in this way, except for the fact that the showrunners think that the adult audience that they're aiming for with this series is significantly dumber than you were when you were children and you watched the animated series.
You say that when the animated series literally just had point blank exposition that explained the setup of the show. Like,
Yeah.
now, admittedly, I'm not absolving this version of it because they do that fucking twice. They have one with the
in the
Kyoshi
worst
version
way
and
possible.
one with Gran,
Gran.
which was I
Poor
think
Gran. She
That made
had
me-
to do the poor exposition in both the Shyamalan movie and in Netflix.
yeah,
Avatar.
and
Yeah,
I
what do they have against Gran? What
I
the
don't
fuck?
know. I didn't like the casting of Gran. I thought she was one of the more like I don't know how to describe it. There was something off about how she was cast. Like maybe the wig was wrong or something. Just something looked wrong about Gran, and then her acting did not carry like anything. It felt wooden as a plank. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think in that circumstance it was just the writing.
Gran
Right.
gets done dirty in every single live action version of Avatar.
Yeah.
It's a weird curse.
But the thing I think he's missing
Yeah.
here is that there is actually an underlying theme about the hypocritical nature of the Fire Nation,
Yes.
where
Mhm.
you have in Zuko, he tries to embody these noble tenets of honor and respect and prestige that come with being a Fire Nation noble. But then, comparatively, every action we see the Fire Nation military make, and this is important that it's 100 years earlier because we see that this is something that has stuck through the entirety of the Fire Nation's history, is one of deceit, manipulation, and cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yes.
is something that I think very well sets up the tone that the series is kind of going for what the Fire Nation is, which is something that is led by a bunch of hypocrites that don't hold up their own strengths, and they're willing to do what it takes to win all the time. And every other Fire Nation member besides Zuko and Iroh and ultimately G reinforce this, because you got Zhao, you've got Azula, you've got Ozai, who are all willing to take these dirty, underhanded tactics to get their goals completed. And and now with this extra scene, we elaborate. Yeah, no, it's not just that the new leadership is terrible. The old leadership was also this way, and this is a pervasive problem that has spread out through the generations. So
Yeah, and because of the fact that this is an adaptation of something that most people are already aware of, then of course you would want your opening to portray a different aspect of the same story, just from a slightly different angle that still like portrays the themes that carries through from the original. Like that makes sense.
now there are other problems that I do agree with, where there is some stupid things going on, like getting every single airbender in the same place at the same time due to a festival.
Yeah,
to
that
wipe
makes
them
no
out.
freaking
What-
sense.
Guys, there's like a couple of farmers, I imagine, probably stayed in the other air temples. You're not going to get everyone coming out here.
Yeah.
So I guess we could say that, like, despite the fact that he specified that the live action is stupider than the cartoons for treating us like, even though it's meant for adults, that they're not treating us like adults, and yet as an adult he can't understand these concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Also, I have to ask
Big
you,
L.
what, dude, what's
Actual
with the
Justice
skeleton?
L.
What's with the skeleton? Like, is that a
Yeah,
thing?
what is with the skeleton?
Halloween was months ago, my dude. You don't.
Is
unless
supposed
that's,
to be because you didn't want a ficus or something in the background?
Oh my
of
god.
flavor?
That was
No, that's I was gonna say that's how dead he feels inside towards.
No,
the
I
show.
was gonna say that was his last co-host. Never got away.
Yeah,
Oh,
On top of that, the insult to your intelligence goes even further when it is revealed that the air nomads are all gathering at the Southern Air
Yeah.
Temple so they can be in one
Yeah.
place so they can all get killed at the same time because
There
they
we
are
go.
celebrating the comet
Well,
or whatever.
also, like,
And the
not
series,
every single member of a group is going to be able to airbend. So having this be that all of the air nomads or whatever go to this one location, you still would
Yeah.
they would still have to go out anyways and destroy all of the non-benders in the other
And-
temples, or else
and-
they're just going to keep
well, I mean, there's that
having
popular
children.
there's that popular fan theory that Tai Li is the descendant of airbenders, because of like
Right.
Oh, I never heard of that theory.
Oh, you haven't heard of
but
that theory?
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
like there's a lot of things people point to, which is like her build, her actual like the shape of her face, and like where
Mm.
and like the color of her features all actually line up more with like Aang and what we see of other airbenders than they do with Fire Nation. And we also know that there were air temples close to the Fire Nations, and we know that from comics at the very least that Air Nation nomads did in fact make pilgrimages down to the Fire Nation, because we actually see like monuments of them that had been, they've been killed around. So
Okay, that's interesting.
yeah, I find that very interesting because I actually really like the idea that Tai Li is just like, she's maybe not an airbender herself, but like maybe her family, through being carnies, keep the traditions alive in some way by being flighty and flying through the air. Fun stuff.
Yeah. And if she was in some way a descendant of the air nomad peoples, that perhaps through her children or grandchildren, perhaps they could have eventually spawned
During the harmonic convergence bullshitting
No,
core.
no, I wouldn't even argue during that. I would
No.
just say,
no.
Yeah.
Just naturally through genetics. Although
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if
Wait,
bending is necessarily genetic.
wait, Dederex, is Tai Li nobility? Or I thought that was only Mai. I thought Tai Li was the daughter of for Carnies. Or did she run away to join the Carnies?
She ran away to join carnies.
Right.
Huh.
I mean, I could still see it. I could still. I mean, dude, you know about the
I-
messiness of like noble lineages.
I think
Yeah.
that while that is a very fascinating theory, I think that is a bit of a stretch. For the simple fact that like people can just have the same facial structure even though they're not related to one another.
Yeah, and admittedly, part of part of them reinforcing it was saying, "Oh yeah, so Zuko, Ozai, Azula, and Mai all have dark hair and gold eyes," and I'm like, "That's 4 people, 3 of which are directly related." I don't know if that's really the
Yeah.
strongest argument to make. Like, what about Zhao or any other Fire Nation general that we come into contact with? 'Cause we
Right. What
Yeah.
about any of like the firebending students that we see during season 3? That'd be
Yeah.
really weird.
I love
But
that
either
episode
way
so
though,
much.
back on topic quickly. I another aspect of like that of like the airbenders coming together that really pisses me off is that it beats the whole goddamn point of having of setting up that what was it? Sozin, or was it Sozin or Zulon? I think it was Sozin.
Sozin.
So the idea that Sozin tipped the Earth Kingdom, the other nations off, so that they be focused on fighting against the Earth Kingdom as opposed to any of the other nations, which will make them easier to pick out. Like, that beats the entire point of that. Why would you do that if you knew that the air nomads were gonna come together in this one festival? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, there are several issues within its own continuity as to that extent. So
Yeah.
again, don't necessarily disagree on this one.
The showrunners, they think you're too stupid to imagine the Fire Nation attacking the northern, southern, eastern, and western air temple because your brain can't possibly imagine a four-pronged attack by the most sophisticated military in the universe that we're dealing with. So
No, I mean, I do think that there is a point of like them thinking we're stupid to some extent, but it's more so that they wanted to quickly convey. It's not that it's more that they didn't want to rely on just explaining, oh yeah, all of them were wiped out. They wanted to show that all of them were wiped out.
Yeah, I think, because I feel like a running issue we're gonna run in throughout this video is that he's gonna put a very, very malicious stint on a lot of the what was it, the intentions of the writers here.
Yeah, and I
like,
don't think that's
of
the case.
course, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I never got what I took was either inexperience or actually I don't even know who wrote this. I'm gonna look that up actually right now. Who wrote Netflix Avatar?
Also, Josh, yes, I saw the video with Hello Future Me, though I didn't watch it, so I don't know what conclusions that he came to.
oh, he came
On
to
that.
very similar ones that we did.
That
From what I watched.
airbending is genetic, or is
Oh,
not genetic.
sorry. I thought you were talking about like this show.
No,
I
he
never
he
saw
added
that about
me
this.
saying, I think Hello Future Me did a video on bending genetics, and I said, yeah, I didn't watch that video though.
Okay, sorry, my mistake. But yeah, I
It's
never
fine.
saw that video either, so I have no idea. We'll have to
Let's
see. It's sort of weird from what I remember, though, whether or not bending is genetic or not. It's a little. It's kind of iffy.
All right.
I would think that it would have to be in some way genetic, because
Yeah.
we haven't had an airbender for over 100 years until Aang finally has children, and then he has a single airbender child. And then his only
Mhm.
other child, his only other two children are a non-bender and a waterbender.
Says
So if it was
Yeah.
it would have to be genetic, because otherwise you would just have a waterbender and a non-bender give birth to an earthbender.
Yeah.
Alright.
Think of the genetic nightmare that is. That is on some faunus type shit.
Sorry, I was not paying attention at all to this because I was looking up writers. So writers we got Albert Kim, who the most notable credits are Sleepy Hollow 2013 through 2017, Nikita 2010, and Leverage 2008. Which I don't know anything about those.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
Audrey-
I think I heard of
I've heard
Nikita,
of
but
I've heard of Sleepy Hollow. Like I remember that being aired, and I remember that being bad. I remember the first few episodes being bad.
Oh dear.
Audrey Wong Kennedy, who wrote Amazing Stories in 2020, which I know nothing about. Keely McDonald, who wrote October Faction and Sleepy Hollow 2013. So they got the Sleepy Hollow writers, it seemed like, or some writers from that. Christine Bolin, who wrote Poker Face 2003, Hoss 2015, Cloak and Dagger. Oh no, she was a producer on Cloak and Dagger. Does anyone even fucking remember that show?
I
forgot they even made that.
Everyone forgot they even made that.
Yeah, because they didn't promote it. Then again, why would they, given how bad apparently it was? I didn't see it.
Joshua Hale. Oh, computer, come on. Joshua Hale Filekov, who was a writer for Wisdom of the Crowd, The Bunker, and Alibi, but those don't even have like proper entries. The Wisdom of the Crowd is the only one that has a proper entry, and he wrote 11 episodes of that. Emily Kim, who actually has is known for XO Kitty 2023, Quantum Leap 2022. They made a Quantum Leap 2022?
What?
Did you have Scott
I-
Bakula in that? No, they did not have Scott Bakula in that. Why the
No,
fuck
that
would you make a
probably
Quantum
didn't
Leap
end
and
well.
not finish off the original with Scott Bakula? Come on.
Because Hollywood.
Kaiser?
Oh dear.
Kaiser died again.
God damn it. Hello, I'm.
You're back. Oh, you're sort of back.
Yeah, my internet
Josh,
does this weird
a
thing.
certain to a certain degree, hereditary is genetics. You pass stuff down hereditarily through genetics.
Hereditary
Like,
is a horror
these
film.
aren't- I know, and I
Oh
I
my
hate. Well, I don't know. I looked up the definition of hereditary because for some reason I couldn't think, like, am I gaslighting myself into thinking that it's not the same thing? And then the only thing that came up was the horror film. I hate the fact that the only things that come up are not definitions to words, but only fucking films or movies or TV shows or whatever. Like, why does everything have to be like media first?
Yeah.
My small rant about the state of Google search.
You just perpetually have that mouse.
Yeah.
Gabriel Lamas, who wrote
No, I just have mouse slippers on at this point.
Slipper.
Oh no, Gabriel Lanas, who produced on 8 episodes of Avatar Netflix, producer on Supergirl, producer on Second Chance, producer on National Treasure: Edge of History.
Oh, that's painful.
Oh no, Uban Mohammed, producer for DC's Legends of Tomorrow, no, writer for DC's Legends of Tomorrow's 33 episodes, The Whisperer
Oh,
and
shit.
Arrow, 1 episode of Arrow. I wonder what episode of Arrow.
Well,
I'm curious now. What episode?
it's probably one of the good ones, right?
E6. Sorry, season 6, E21, docket number. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I remember that being a stupid episode. Okay.
Oh, never mind then.
Yep.
Never hope for anything,
And
kid.
finally, down this rabbit hole, Hunter Riaz, who wrote Chelsea and Kelsey, Bella and the Bulldog. They were editor on Chelsea and Kelsey. They were additional crew on Bella and the Bulldogs, and they were camera and electrical department in the Furies of War. So he went from camera to additional crew to editor to writer.
Oh, well, he moved up in the world. Good for him.
I don't know if that's
Yeah.
really moving up. Like, I don't know if those are like strictly better than one another.
Yeah.
That's just hopping from job to job.
Yeah, that's good though, because that means that he has a diverse range of skills.
All right. Anyway, back to this video.
So already, this was a big red flag. And on top of that, Aang leaves basically the same day because the storm is also occurring, so it's already a mess from the opening scene. But to be clear, I'm not here to summarize the plots of episodes. What I want to focus on is this writing strategy that the writers came up with for this series, and they apply it at each and every point to make changes just so you think, wow, this is different from the original, even though each of these changes, absent the one that I talked about with Zuko's crew, makes the series significantly worse.
Okay. You see, he's ascribing intent here, where it's like
Yeah.
they did it to make it different. And I'm like, I don't think that's necessarily what they did. Well, I don't doubt that was probably part of it, but there's also like the formatting and time constraints.
I think to a certain degree it was making it different to make it different to give them justification for making the live action version as opposed to just watching the original cartoon. But also, I get the feeling that they were trying to fix
Like,
things from the show that fans maybe have complained about, you know?
there are
I-
definitely some parts that feel like that, at least in a couple of areas. The real question has to do with what is like the primary, from what impression that you get from the show that shows their primary concern. And to me, it's less about just trying to be different from the original and more so, okay, with the constraints that we have, because I'm willing to bet that some kind of producer or somebody, like threw their freaking gun on the table and told them that they need to have book one in one season. I wouldn't make that choice, but I know in my heart that some threatening of violence was involved in that decision, okay? Because nothing else would convince me to do that. But, with the constraints that we've had, how do we best represent the best attributes of the original while making the necessary amounts of changes with these constraints to give people a slightly different experience, if that makes any sense, or a compelling experience.
I think the formatting also hurts it a lot because you can no longer have, at least not in the way that was in the original, the episodic story structure. And I think that's a lot of people do point that out, is we're in a much more serialized hour-long episode structure, which lends itself to different strengths and weaknesses. It leads itself to much stronger character work where you can actually build a longer, like you can have more detailed character stories being told in the series of an hour, much more intricate plots in the story of an hour. But on the flip side, you can't do the more bite-sized kind of slice of life, moral of the day kind of stories that was very prevalent in the first half and a little bit of the second half of the original series, and then slowly faded away as the series went on, but it was still present. You can't quite have those, and that's why they truncated certain things together.
Well, it's really weird because it's truncated, but also it turns out that it's relatively the same amount of time anyways to the first season.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
it's only 1 hour less. They only have 1 less hours worth of screen time compared to season 1 of the original.
2 entire episodes, so I think it is basically equivalent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
they took away the Great Divide and they took away
the pirates, the fortune teller.
No, yeah, that one as well. So I guess it's 3.
Well, and if you want to count it, they also in a way took away partially the Heibai episode.
Yeah. Well, they didn't take away the Heibai episode. They just kind of sidestepped Heibai as a thing in order to focus on Ko, which I found, even though that we really liked that scene with Ko, that was a really weird decision because that was supposed to be Heibai's episode, and Heibai was kind of just a side character.
Right.
Yeah. At that point, like, he may as well have not really been there all that much.
And this is
I wish that they were able to finish off Heibai's story. Like they could have added Ko in there. And they could have kept it as it was, but then finish off with Heibai.
Really, I think the idea of it really is so harmful the way they angled Aang and they wanted to have him rushing to the north. It really does damage to the rest of the story because then you don't get him stopping to try and take care of Heibai, then learning the ultimate, dangers of things. Like you could have combined that with Roku. You didn't like. There are so many different choices. I don't quite understand why they made those choices. In a
lot of ways, they unintentionally damage the whole point of being the Avatar. Because they're so focused on him being like, well, you have to be the big damn hero and save the day and everyone from the war and stuff. But you forget, the Avatar also has to take care of the spirit world.
Yeah.
Aang is the bridge between the material world and the spirit world. He has to take care of both.
Partially because they also had what's his face, and they showed him, but not showed him, but they at least touched on the northern the waterbender Avatar. They kind of touched on that and on Roku.
Well, yes, but they also said that the reason why he wasn't really liked as the Avatar was because he wasn't keeping the balance either. He neglected the material world and spent all of his time in the spirit world.
Right. No, I get
The
that. I'm just saying, like, it was at least touched upon the nature of what it's supposed to be. It's just it poorly demonstrated
yeah,
with Aang. Yeah.
like I like that they were able to touch on that because yes, that is canon. The whole
Right.
story with Kudak
Coulda.
is that
Correct. Yeah.
he did he didn't necessarily neglect the material world, although he did. The reason why he spent so much time in the spirit world was because he saw that there were a bunch of evil spirits that were going to invade the material world, and he spent all of his time there fighting uh, a bunch of spirits, co included, but I think the main one was like Mr. Centipede, if I'm remembering that right. Um uh
I
having
wasn't aware Centipede made a cameo.
but they're the battles that he had in the spirit world had damaged his soul to the point where he became kind of nihilistic, and then he spent all of his time drinking and having uh sex and all of these things without a care in the world, and he neglected his duties as the avatar in the material world in order to try and make the best of his life, despite all the pain that he was constantly in. And that is why Yue made that point, that she was curious about why Kurak did the things that he did, because nobody knew about it, because it is canon that he also kept that a secret from everybody.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so
Do
I
you
I
thi-
do like that they take the novels and the comics into consideration when they're building these things.
Yeah.
It is nice that like when like we didn't have this fleshed out before, now we do, and we can actually integrate it. There's some good
Yeah.
stuff there. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate that some of the things that you changed also hurt things. So
Think, wow,
Yeah.
this is different from the original, even though each of these changes, absent the one that I talked about with Zuko's crew, makes the series significantly worse. And this is what I'd like to dub the
How
Uno
is it
reverse
significantly
card
worse?
style of writing, where something happens in the original and then the reverse happens here, or a character was one way in the original and then Uno reverse, it happens completely different, and it happens to each and every character, and it's horrible every single time. And considering the plot is still going in the same direction, it kind of undercuts the premise of the series, because a story is like a butterfly effect. If you change something, it should have reverberations on the rest of the tale, but this doesn't happen because these writers are amateurs. So what do I mean by this? Well, I think it's
I
best
just
for
wanna
me to
quickly
go through
say,
the characters.
You have your mouse on his chin, and it makes it look like he has a soul patch there.
wait, I do?
Yeah, you did.
Oh well, oops.
It's really funny though. Yo,
One by
somebody
one by
draw
one,
him with just
so
a
you can
freaking
understand
goatee.
the Uno reverse card way of writing them. So if you guys remember the original series, Zuko speaks out in a war council meeting. Because he spoke out in said meeting, he ends up disrespecting his father inadvertently, and there is a challenge for an Agni Kai. Zuko accepts it because he thinks he's calling out the general and he'll be fighting him one-on-one, but then when he shows up, it is revealed that his father, the Fire Lord, is his opponent. Now Zuko begs for mercy, he refuses to fight his father, and as punishment, he gets his face burned. Now, in this particular series, Zuko tries pleading for mercy, he tries not fighting his father, but then he decides to fight his father, and to
Yeah.
make things even
Yep.
weirder, there's actually a point in
Yeah.
time where he gets the upper hand on him, shows
Yes!
him mercy, and he gets burned for showing him mercy. So, in the beginning
Yes.
of this series, Fire Lord
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't like mercy. He made it so that Zuko had no choice but to fight him. Like, I get it to a certain degree. Like, I was also a little bit
Disappointed.
upset about that, but it's
Dis-
not that big of a deal because we still show that he didn't want to. There's just a difference between him absolutely outright refusing and then him trying to placate his father because his father is forcing him to try and do it, and then him still reverting back to not wanting to fight the moment that he proves that he does have the will to fight.
Yeah, and there's also like, oh, he shouldn't be able to beat Ozai in his prime, and it's like, I don't necessarily if he was going to
Well,
beat Ozai there.
Yeah, me.
Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I could easily see him getting
I-
a hit in, but I don't think he was going to win ultimately.
No.
Right. Like in a lot of ways, I will say that overall, like I said in the previous podcast or the previous stream, that like yeah, I also think that change wasn't very good. I think overall it is, compared to many of the other changes, it is not that detrimental. It just undercuts that little bit of aspect of Zuko's story to me personally,
Yeah.
because for me it feels even stronger because that he refuses to not fight at all. That's it, end of story, because it speaks to how this speaks truly to the difference between Zuko and Ozai, and also just what makes Zuko a different person from just the rank and file in the Fire Nation and their ideology. And it speaks to how cruel Ozai is, that he is upset that his son loves him more than his status.
Also, I do want to kind of talk about how Azula is portrayed in this. It is revealed
He
in the
might
comic.
be touching on Azula, so we.
Oh,
might wanna
okay,
save that.
okay. Well, I'll just
Okay,
save it
let's
for then.
just save
Yeah.
that.
And if it
Yeah,
doesn't,
I'll
we can
save that.
bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ozai, the most powerful firebender, might actually be weaker than Zuko. Like, that's the information they're
No.
communicating from us.
That wasn't
And
what
Zuko
happened.
gets his face burned.
What?
But Ozai,
Ozai was just pushing him far enough that he would take action. That is the best
Yes.
faith interpretation of what happened.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you can have a worse faith interpretation of what happened too. Like, that's fair on your end because it's not entirely clear. But I just took that. Like, I initially was like, wait, Zuko winning? But the more I'm thinking about it, it's like, I don't think Ozai was really trying to win. He was trying to teach a lesson to his son.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like I'm pretty sure, given like Ozai's demeanor during that scene, he looks relatively in control. So I kind of headcanon it just saying like he's relatively like holding back, which makes sense
Yeah.
given what he does throughout the fight anyway. So
is crying during the process of burning his face. More on that later when we talk about the Uno reversing of Ozai's character. Now, when he's recovering, Zuko is told by General Iroh that his vision is perfectly fine. Now, this is an Uno reverse of Zuko from the original series, who actually had blurred vision on one side of his face, which, by the way, is crucial to his character.
Did he?
No, he fucking didn't. This is the point that I
Yeah,
wanted to get
what?
to. Is where the fuck are you pulling this from? Because
where-
wait,
you
what did he
pulling
just
that
say?
he said that in the original series, Zuko had blurred vision on the side of his face. Meanwhile, I looked
No,
into this.
he didn't.
Bryke confirmed in a Q&A that he had no impairment to his vision beyond the fact that his eyelid couldn't close properly or wouldn't open fully. Like,
Well, yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
which
but
it's not blurred vision. That's a very different thing, and it doesn't impair him at all. Zuko is not impaired in this scene. I don't know where he's pulling this from.
yeah, I never got
Because
blurred
that was-
vision thing from Zuko at all. That never came up.
I will put my money where my mouth is. Give me $100. That was not at all mentioned in the original franchise. In the
I
original
don't
trilogy.
think it was. I don't
I'll-
think it was.
I'll up
Like
the
my-
ante and say 200 Monopoly dollars.
But I think this is just straight talking out of your ass. I think this is a case where someone's headcanon got mixed in with the shuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Or
the
or it
story
could be the Mandela effect of sorts.
Yeah.
Like he hasn't rewatched the series in such a long time that he's forgotten like what his headcanon was and what was canon in the show.
Representing the internal struggle that he has on. He has duality on his face. He has blurred vision. He doesn't see the world straight, and that
Like, it's a
is
cool
something that
headcanon, but
represents part of
it's
his
not
journey
there.
as we do his
Stop.
character arc. But they take that away because Uno reverse.
See the world straight. Get out of here.
Well, initially,
Yeah,
like,
what?
the idea is like he's in his initial arc, the idea he doesn't see things properly. Like he's not like there is something to be said there as an idea, but like he invented this. It just comes
No,
out of
this
nowhere.
is this is kind of the whole thing with Ironwood. Like you take away his real body parts and replace them with robots, he's now less of a human being, therefore he's more cruel.
Jesus Christ, I hate that fucking argument. Like there is a point to having a bad guy with like missing limbs and such. Like there's a whole arc and trope to it. You just got to handle it right. There's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it, and I don't trust this guy to do it. I am not saying this guy's
Yeah, no,
how this would work.
it's just the way that he's saying it makes it kind of feels icky. Cuz like he said directly, like his face is burned, he can't see out of his eye, he doesn't see straight. That's what he said.
It's a little much.
Secretly, it's indicating that
little
he's
much.
actually a gay lover to Sokka. I mean, we can't complain about this now, guys. We're going to be called homophobes. I'm sorry.
I know that's your desire. You want to be Sokka's gay lover.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Then again, who doesn't? Then again, who
Who
doesn't?
can say no to that chin?
Yeah.
And the showrunners don't get that. But as for Ozai, like I said, throughout the course of the series, for some reason, he actually cares about Zuko, sees him as his clear favorite child, and he doesn't feel the same way about Azula, which again is the opposite of the series.
No.
And Azula
That is not at all how I interpreted
nah.
things.
No.
Like
No, I did not get that.
the way I interpreted it, which is
I've seen this a lot in a lot of places, and
and we lost him again.
Oh no.
Hello, am I
All right,
back?
there you
Am I
are.
back?
Twilight,
Okay,
can
I
you
was
set
saying that,
us-
like,
because you have control over this, I have no control over the channel. Can you set us to like U.S. West or U.S. Central?
Sure.
That
I
might
can
be part of the
try
issue.
that.
Okay.
Give me a hot minute.
Okay.
Because,
I was just saying that, like, I hear this same talking point a lot in a few places, but even though I can kind of understand how they got this, that I don't think it's true.
Yeah,
No.
You-
In fact, I think that he I mean, it's also kind of a problem, but I don't think that he favors either child in the live action.
yeah,
I think he pit them against each other in live action in order to see which one was more worthy.
yeah, he's a very survival of the strongest kind of guy.
Yeah, which,
Yeah.
to be fair, does go against the canon of the original show. However, like, it's not that egregiously different.
Yeah, it still winds up effectively the same, and I mean, because like by the time we get to where we are in the series, he has lost all respect for Zuko. Like, sure, he pit them against one another. Basically, he uses Zuko the entire time as a motivator to get Azula where he wants her to be.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah,
By him not understanding that he's focusing so much on Zuko in order to get Azula to where he wants her to be. Again, that's just him saying that he is kind of a big stupid adult who doesn't understand and needs to be spoon-fed through the series.
I'll be right back. I can still hear everything because Bluetooth headphones, but I'll be right back.
okay, we'll continue on.
Azula is constantly seeking the approval of her father, while Zuko acts like he doesn't need approval even though he wants to go back home. This is, again, a weird Uno reversal because Zuko's whole quest is about returning and restoring his honor. Now, by the way, because I commented positively on some portions of the cast, I do want to point out that Azula, May, and Ty Lee are horribly cast. They look terrible.
Oh, get ready for it. I know you're lining up for this.
On top of that, a lot of the costumes, while true to the animation, they look basically brand new, and they don't have that realistic feel, and they look awkward in live action.
Oh, you didn't elaborate on that. Okay. Because I actually there was a guy that one of the videos I scrolled through made a good point about this. Is like people were complaining about Azula, Ty Lee, and Mai not looking like they did in the original show, and he did show like how the show portrayed Azula, where she's kind of like in her like bedwear and like at one point and like sliding around one of the posts on her bed. Like it looks like maybe an early 20s woman, like kind of starting to like come on to someone. It looks very seductive, and like that kind of worked in animation. Can't do that in live action with a 14-year-old.
I mean, you can, but you'll get labeled as cuties supporter.
Yeah, you'll be labeled a Dan Harmon. Not Dan Harmon. Sorry, that's the wrong person.
Wrong asshole.
Yeah, wrong asshole. Is it Dan Schneider? No.
I don't know.
Whoever fucking ran Nickelodeon, they just had a whole expose about that asshole.
Yeah. Also, I don't know how to change it. Help me.
It should be right-clicking on it. It should have it under the settings. It should like you have to scroll down. I remember it's like one of those things you have to scroll through settings for.
Also, it was Dan Schneider. And also, I was
Okay.
going to say, yeah. And also, I was going to say, yeah, if you did that, you would basically be the guy who made Euphoria.
Yeah, if you right click on it, you should be able to
Click on what?
Oh, sorry, right click on the Team JYCT channel.
Oh, on the channel itself.
Yes. And then you edit
Okay.
channel, and then you scroll all the way down in the channel settings. It should be region override.
Oh, well, okay.
Technology.
I've never had to do this
Isn't
for
technology
like
great?
the actual.
Oh,
Is it
Dedarex is leaving? See you, dude.
Oh, bye, Dedarex.
Bye.
Oh, wow, we've gone an hour and a half and no Dedarex. Dedarex, are you okay? Are you okay, buddy? I mean, I'm not that I necessarily demanded of you, but it's like I it's something we look forward to.
Oh, he has to go to dinner. He had to go to dinner.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's been an hour and a half. Ah, there we go. All right, hopefully that all worked out.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, he could at least do a background image with this skeleton, this skeleton. Also, Twi, you're freaking out. God, we just cannot catch a fucking break.
Apparently not. I guess we're too jacked for Discord.
I'm here.
Also, Twi, I think you're streaming. Are you streaming in 1440p?
I think it automatically goes to that. Yeah, I was actually just about to change it.
I was gonna say, like, can that fucking computer handle that?
No.
All right, there we go. That should help things.
And so, yeah, there's some
switch it
issues.
to 1080 and 30 FPS. Is that?
That's
should be
fine. It'll be fine.
There. But back to the characters, because this is most crucial. So Katara and Sokka also have some Uno reverses. Now, I'm sure you guys know that Sokka's character arc where he's kind of sexist and he's trying to represent what he thinks a man should be because he doesn't have any male role models has been completely cut out, reduced, dumbed down in every way possible, like everything else in this series. And that really negatively impacts his character because what we see is him actually learn what it actually means to become a man. However, he doesn't have the same issues starting out that he had before. And on top of that, he's kind of Uno reverse carded with Katara in that instead of Katara taking on the role of the mother, which led to one of the more beautiful scenes in the entire series, where Sokka says when he imagines his mother's face, he actually sees Katara because she's always been looking out for him. He then gets referred to as being like their father because, Uno reverse, and Katara has almost none of the problems and conflicts that she has in season 1. A perfect example of this is in the original series, Aang was naturally talented at waterbending. And by the way, this set up a future character arc for when in season 2 he couldn't do earthbending because he always assumed that bending would come so naturally to him just because he was the Avatar. But this actually angers Katara in season 1 because she struggles mightily with waterbending. Well, guess what? Uno reverse card to that character arc because Aang does not bend one drop of water in regular
Not
form.
even,
There's Avatar
which
state
is
stuff
so
that he does
weird.
throughout the whole
So
course
weird.
of the series. But
There's nothing to
Katara
object here.
is
This is all
naturally
correct.
like a great
Yeah, it's all
waterbender.
correct.
And in fact, her character arc concludes when she goes to the North Pole and she challenges Master Paku, who refuses to teach her because she's a woman and they don't teach women to fight in the Northern Water Tribe. And even though she knows she's going to lose to him, she puts
we already know that she has to deal with a lot of sexism for her brother. So we
Yeah.
know that she is set up to fight Master Paku because she fights with her brother all the time over sexism. That's why it worked, even though that it was cliche.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with Katara being as like relatively much more docile in this version as than she originally was,
It's more sexist.
it comes up. Yeah, it's not only more sexist, but it also comes off a bit more out of nowhere. That
Puts up
she
a
would
good
just
fight.
fight Master Paku, like 1v1 him.
Well, like
You know?
she apparently, despite the fact that we see her bending less in the live action show than in the cartoon, and yet before she even fights with Master Paku, she already has enough skill to be considered a
Apparently,
master.
she's just master level.
Yeah, she's
from
just
one
master level
scroll.
already.
From one scroll.
It
What?
is.
One single
It is
scroll.
such. It is one of the clearest downgrades from the original.
Yeah.
Not only that, but he like puts her in charge of shit during the war.
Oh my god.
It's like it's wonderful. Great. You can do a lot of really fancy tricks. You're a master now.
Yeah.
Now here, lead this army. What?
Yeah.
I have no demonstrable like skill here. It's like, well, you're doing it now.
That one chubby kid's death was on Master Paku because he put her in charge, and the kid was like, "What do I do?" She directed him on what to do. He got killed. That's on Master Paku for making her like a leader in the war.
Hashtag not my Paku. Hashtag Paku is canceled.
Here's what you're gonna do, kid. You're gonna jump over this wall. You're gonna land in the ocean. You're gonna water bend out to those boats, and you're gonna take them all on. Don't worry, kid. I have the utmost faith in you. Go for it. Kid just like jumps, like okay, jumps off the wall, lands in the water
Instantly.
doesn't,
Yes.
doesn't surface. It's just like, oh, I should have probably told him to waterbend his way down. Whoops.
Yeah.
JK Network says, "Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. I'm writing my own fantasy sci-fi web novel, and since you guys are writers, I wanted to ask your advice on working on if that's okay." Well, I mean, first
Advice
piece of
on what?
advice is clarify what the fuck you just said at the end of that sentence. That might help. But no, we'd be happy to give advice. Yeah, go ahead and ask away. We could definitely give you some
Yeah,
tips.
ask any questions here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're cool. I mean, we've gave some tips on stuff here before, so yeah, it's no big deal.
Also, yeah, Ryan is right that Katara just immediately gives up on fighting Paku and goes
God.
to the lady to learn how to do stuff that she already learned in the actual cartoon that they just
Yes.
skipped over.
Yeah.
That frustrated me so much.
Me
Because,
too.
Like they're saying that she just automatically learns all of this quote unquote male oriented stuff, but she has to learn the female oriented stuff by a woman even though that in the cartoon she has to learn the quote unquote male oriented stuff from a teacher, and she just has a natural gift on the quote unquote female oriented stuff when it comes to her bending. So
Right.
she learned healing on her own because of Aang's actions, and she was able to um become really good at that on her own, to the point where she didn't need those lessons, so she was desperate
Okay.
to learn more.
Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem, okay? That implies that women need to improve. And we can't have that. We can't have that. You can't be a woman and improve because of a man. We can't have that. Not in our show. Not in this life.
I want to tell you guys a little secret, okay? Come close. Come close to me.
Not that close. Back up a little bit. Close, close.
Alright, please.
No, you need to be this close to me,
Co-
or else
co-
you won't.
COVID guidelines. I'm sorry. Look, they're not enforced here anymore, but you're in Canada. I have to take precautions. We might get just shut off the air.
Yeah, we might get moose flu.
Okay, now you're being racist, Kaiser. Stop that.
Hey, I'm being statesist. That's different.
Anyway, thank you guys for ruining my joke. I appreciate it.
To be fair, we
Hey,
built
he
upon
ruined it first.
I'll let you guys in on a little bit of a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Women are humans. We're just as fallible and just as in need of guidance and learning as men. To treat us
thought
any
y'all-
differently is to be sexist.
I
thought y'all were from Mars.
I thought I was always taught that all women are queens. But then I've also heard that all women are if she breathes, she a thought. And then you have like a lightsaber battle over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my reference point for the femoid dynamics. Yes.
Right, Paku realizes that her necklace, which by the way has no significance in this series, is the one that he carved for her grandmother, and he changes his mind, trains her, and then she becomes a waterbending master. Well, in this series, Uno reverse card, Katara is just declared a waterbending master, and there's a horrible scene where Zuko is fighting her and he's losing. He's like, "Wow, I guess you found a master," and she's like, "I did. Me, I am Katara, and I don't need no man-stir to teach me waterbending." And it's cringe and terrible and horrible, while at the same time completely undercutting Aang's development, who again doesn't bend one drop of water. In fact,
I don't think that scene was any more better or worse than any other scene necessarily.
No, I think that scene was definitely worse in some respects. Like, I'm glad that they still had the fight. I'm glad that she still went back to Master Paku and then fought with him. But the fact that Aang didn't, like, he was so excited to learn waterbending in the original cartoon. And Katara was too. And Aang said, "My friend also is excited to learn waterbending." And then he shows Katara. Then Master Paku was like, "Ew, a woman." And
ew,
he
cooties.
kept teaching Aang, and then it was eventually Katara proved herself to Master Paku, and yeah, you had the whole necklace thing and yada yada yada, but it was proved through her hard work that she was able to master waterbending better than the fucking Avatar, because even though that he was excited to learn waterbending, he didn't take it seriously enough because he was just so naturally gifted at it.
Yeah.
Okay, says women can survive lightsabers. Sorry, Qui-Gon.
Oh yeah, because the stuff that happened in fucking Disney Star Wars now.
Yeah.
Dude,
What?
why the fuck? Yeah, because
you have,
okay,
in the Obi-Wan series, one of the main antagonists and later a protagonist She gets
One of
stabbed.
the main villains.
She gets stabbed in the gut
Yep.
twice by a lightsaber, once as a child, once as an adult, in the exact same place for the record, and survived both.
Yes.
Well, I mean, wouldn't a lightsaber automatically cauterize your wounds, thus allowing you to better
No.
survive?
Well, yeah, you can make an argument. There's several different like directions to take why it shouldn't have worked where she got survived, because like one argument is, and this is actually a really crazy one, which isn't true in the Star Wars universe, but if the lightsabers get as hot as they're supposed to get, if you actually impale someone with that, they would spontaneously combust because every fluid in their body would just boil instantly. Which, since that doesn't happen, we have to assume there's a different mechanic at work. Even then, getting stabbed in the gut by a regular sword, not just one that's on fire and constantly dragging through your body, should, like, you know...
Well, there's a difference between just
You're
getting
donezo.
stabbed and having the weapon come out the way that it came, and having it drag through
did,
your
though.
body.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing.
Well,
She basically
yeah.
got stabbed in the exact same way that Qui-Gon did. And when she got stabbed the first time as a child, it was during Order 66 in the Jedi Temple, where they would be double tapping
because
everyone
Darth
they
Vader
came
did
across.
that to her.
So the fact that she survived somehow is just baffling, because like the minute they find a survivor, it's just sort of like, oh, found another one.
And then in the freaking Ahsoka show, they did the exact same thing with Sabine, who was from Rebels, who was a protagonist from Rebels. She gets stabbed in the exact same spot, and she's fine.
The only argument I could possibly see with Sabine is that she somehow miraculously got immediate medical attention.
It missed her vital organs, so it's okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of bullshit with that, and admittedly, you got to lay the blame ultimately at Darth Maul for surviving getting cut in half. Like that's bullshit.
That's true. That too, yeah.
Like, let's be clear.
110%.
Like, we joke that it's a whole female thing, but that's just because they've pulled that bullshit with a lot of female characters. You know, it started with an OG male character, unless you want to say he's trans, in which case, okay, that's a direction to take, I suppose.
Or maybe lightsabers aren't as deadly as Star Wars fanboys like to tell you that they are.
I will immediately counter that with Qui-Gon, who got stabbed once, and in the same film that Maul got chopped in half and survived. It's like, I'm sorry, if he survived, Qui-Gon could get immediate medical attention. They were in an allied area. They could have gotten a med droid immediately.
Maybe he had some other underlying issues. You don't know.
Maul got chopped in half and fell down several stories into a dark well. That
Was
ended
he
in a dark-
even human, though?
Oh my god! Stop it.
Oh, that's right. There was another character that also got stabbed in the Obi-Wan show, and everyone said, "Oh, the reason why he survived, because he fucking survived, is because his species has more than one stomach." And I'm like, "Excuse me."
What?
Yeah, no, they said, "Oh, he only got stabbed in one of his two stomachs," and it's like, that's not the issue at play here. I'm pretty sure if you stab a cow in one of its stomachs, it's gonna have fucking problems.
Yes.
I mean, there was that cow that had the window in his stomach for scientific reasons.
Was the cow doing science, or was someone else doing science on the cow? I need to know this distinction.
The window was there for people to look in at how cows digest their food.
Interesting.
Okay, but even then, that had to be surgically, like, freaking installed into the cow.
I actually...
Yeah, they used the lightsaber, and then they immediately put it
Oh my
in.
god!
All right, back to the video we're here to talk about.
When Aang becomes the moon spirit at the end of the show, or actually he becomes the ocean spirit because the moon spirit gets killed, he's not even bending water inside the bubble like he was in the anime. He's just Godzilla smashing the ships. Now, if you think this
it wasn't
Uno
super
reverse card
clear.
style of writing applies to
Well, also,
only
that was
your
the water
mainline
spirit, not
characters,
Aang.
Yeah.
The water spirit was just using Aang as a conduit in order to do what it wanted to do.
Yeah.
you'd
And
be
it did some
exactly
Godzilla
dead
shit
wrong.
in the original too.
Yeah,
so it's like it's not
well,
that.
I think it's because like the motions he was making inside the bubble when he did, but it's still it's pedantic. It's not
wrong. It applies to the
Right.
side characters as
I
well.
also
Remember
like
King
how
Boomy from the
half
original
the
series?
time the chat isn't even talking about this; they're talking about Korra.
That too. I noticed that.
that's a whole nother can of worms.
And
Yeah,
he
we're
goes to
not doing a
visit at
Korra video today, guys.
Omashu. King Boomy has his identity hidden from Aang. Aang doesn't know who he is. And King Boomy teaches him a lesson because he still loves him and he's held on to that friendship for over 100 years. Well, not in this series. It's been Uno reversed. Now King Boomy reveals his identity immediately and he hates Aang for leaving. He despises him and he kind of wants to kill himself or kill Aang. I'm not really sure. And then only through a confluence of events does Aang restore his faith
my God.
rather than the
Oh shit, JK Network. Thank you, man.
Holy sh! Okay, dude.
Okay, my story is about the heroes
Somebody must have gotten a paycheck.
fighting to stop an empire from taking over the world. Similar to Ruby, they work with a military general who has good intentions but more brutal tactics. Both sides make good points, but any advice to handle it well without pulling an Ironwood?
All right, sweet. So I got one.
Okay,
because this is something.
I'm gonna hit the restroom. You take this. I'll come back and give my advice.
Okay, number one, watch Arcane and watch Jace's scenes. He is a very great example of what Ironwood should have been. Okay, that now granted that's an easy answer, but one of the things you got to do well in comparison to how Ruby treated Ironwood is one of the issues is that the problem wasn't necessarily that Ironwood was in the wrong or that the protagonist ended up being against him or even the reasons why they were against him, at least at the very
You have
end.
to show
The
a
re- the
realistic chain
bad
of
thing-
events that leads the character
Yes.
into making the decisions that they do.
Yes, and you also have to give your what was it? Your either you justify them being against the Ironwood character with them having a plan or with something that is like really against them just morally speaking that has been firmly established with their character. Because otherwise it's just not going to work very well.
Yeah. So you're I don't know much about your story, and of course you had a limited amount of space to talk about it. But I'm assuming that because you said that it was like Ruby and Ironwood, that you're going to eventually have a scenario like that where the characters are going to eventually fight against them because of their differing moral, ethical,
Ideologies and
and
morals and stuff.
political opinions and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have to realistically show the pros and cons to either side of the conflict and show the how complicated the scenarios are and what you're going to have to show that whatever actions any of the characters take that they're going to have consequences for them. There is going
Yes.
to be something that is going to happen because of this action that a character took. And how anything is being reacted to those actions is going to also inform the characters, and you're going to have to make that clear in order to show the audience a smooth progression into a character changing their positions or getting them from point A to point B and point C.
Also, last thing, do not make this guy a supervillain. Okay? That is the worst thing that Ruby did with Ironwood, arguably. Because it's one thing that, to have the reasons why both characters are conflicting be kind of a bit contrived. If they had stuck the landing in the aftermath and still had Ironwood stay like in character, but have it be a sort of reluctant villain, I would have been over it. But that's not what happened because they would rather villainize his viewpoints, which can I just say that goes against what the story was trying to do in regards to making things morally gray or establish that beating Salem isn't going to be easy. It beats the point when you make the opposition, unilaterally bad without the protagonist actually working through his thought process.
I will slightly disagree in that I think that you can have the character go to those extremes. The problem is that they didn't do enough to justify Ironwood going to those extremes.
Yeah.
I mean that too, but I'm just saying
Also,
with
when
what they established before, with them not doing that, that was the bad decision.
when you analyze the situation in Volume 7 and Volume 8, it's not a no-win scenario trolley problem like it should have been. Like, honestly, Ironwood's solution was the most reasonable one in the room, and the girls didn't
Yes.
have a really tenable, positive solution other than, we'll just keep on fighting, I guess. Like, there was no attempt to compromise. It was just them immediately being like, we're kind of against you. And admittedly,
Yeah, there's
Ironwood
no
was also
plan.
unreasonable too. Like, no one actually tried to make a plan. No one
Yeah.
tried to argue, like, from a sense of logic or anything like that. So,
Yeah, but at least
For- the-
Ironwood has an excuse, relatively speaking,
No
in
one
that
also
scenario.
tried to compromise as well.
exactly.
Because that's
Yeah.
another one of the issues that I found with the show was that the girls immediately went on the attack when they learned what Ironwood was planning. There was no
Yes.
attempts to bargain with him. There was no attempts to try and leverage something. There was no attempts to try and politic their way around to get their way or anything. It was just immediately, oh, this is what he's doing. I don't like that thing, therefore he is now the enemy.
So if I could just give my my layout for this is, what you want in this kind of situation is you want a trolley problem that has two very clear solutions that are not there, neither of which are perfect. That's the starting point. You want to make sure that you have one solution that's maybe going to save one group of people and one solution that's going to save another group of people, and morally speaking, you have to have characters that value these groups differently. And that's where
Yes.
you get the conflict between them, is that maybe you have characters that value the most number of people. They value quantity over
Right.
quality. Whereas you have this is a very broad speaking too. Or you have one
Mhm.
character that values a certain type of person, like aristocrats, or values scientists, or values
Right.
like the money makers, or values the military. And you have those
It's all about
two-
motivation.
Yeah, it's all about motivation, and it's all about characters coming to a head and being unable to reach a proper solution.
Yeah.
Even though this is a key, both sides desperately want to reach a neutral solution, but neither side can see a neutral solution.
Right. Because their
you're-
priorities and motivations are different.
They're
And
two
with character
diametrically
writing,
opposed.
Yeah.
exactly. When it comes to
If you're
character writing in
wanting-
general, like motivation is probably the most important thing, more than just personality, arguably.
If you're wanting to have the scenario eventually end the way that it did in Ruby, but still have it a lot better, you're going to have to come up with all of the things that I mentioned before and what Kaiser and Raymond mentioned, the alternate solutions that they come up with, and you have to show them failing or breaking down in some form or fashion, so that the
Yeah,
only
Robbie-
option that is left to them that is realistic at this point is for them to go all out just against what is going
One
to
thing-
happen.
Actually, Robbie Hughes makes a great point in chat. Make dilemmas not problems. A problem has a solution, a dilemma has two solutions, both of which can be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to talk about it. And another thing that's really important that I find, and they tried to do this to some degree at the beginning of Volume 8, but not enough, have the characters involved regularly questioning their course of action.
Yes.
And there isn't a point where it gets obnoxious, where it's just sort of like, why the fuck are you even doing this if you're questioning it so much? There's a fine line, but having characters be like, I think we're doing the right thing, but I feel really fucking bad while we're doing this because I know people are going to
Yes.
get hurt as a result. Having characters
Yeah.
have that complex moral question of, do I go with my values? Do I capitulate to a higher power? Do I value all life or no life, or like
Yeah, because
so
remember,
much there.
when freaking Team Ruby were fighting the Aesops, there was no reluctance. The only person that was Ruby, and even then that really fails because she shit talked Harriet the previous scene right before there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Okay.
And
Well,
these are the guys that they were training with for at least about a couple of months, apparently, because Arrow fell. So
I'm
it's
pretty
like,
sure they confirmed
why?
that back in Q&As anyway. But anyway,
Getting off
Yeah.
topic.
yeah, we're getting off topic. I hope that helped. But we should probably get back to the video.
Hey, yeah.
And if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. And you don't need to hit us with the hunter to do it. We appreciate it. I mean, I will take
Very-
it gladly, but like you don't have to.
Very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. That was
Yeah, thank you.
Very generous.
That was a
really
great
fun
question.
question.
Conversation.
Yeah,
It was.
Reverse,
Kaiser
because
was just chomping at the bit to answer that.
Dude, I've been listen to me. My Ironwood video is gonna be exactly all this.
and he kind of wants to kill himself or kill Aang, I'm not really sure, and then only through a confluence of events does Aang restore his faith rather than the reverse, because, Uno reverse card for reasons, because
with the
that's
Uno
what we do in the
reverse.
series.
it's also that's not the angle I took it in terms of like, I took it as this is a natural fallout of, a man being at war for 100 years. Like, I get it
Right.
in the original, and it's structured different in the original. But even then, I think Boomy being such an unmitigated positive ray of sunshine was... It's really hard to get to 100 years old and maintain that level of positivity. But they made it work in the
200.
original.
He's only 112.
Didn't I say 100?
I thought you said 200.
I might have just mixed my words. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did say 200.
But
Yeah.
like to a certain degree, I agree, but I also disagree. I don't think that they should have gone full pessimistic and bitter with Boomy, because at that point you are just he's
At that point, you're just
he's a
changing the
completely different
character.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a completely different character now. That is no longer Boomy. That is an old man named Shumi.
Shumi.
He is
Like,
no longer Boomy. He is now Boomer.
yeah.
Boomer.
Like I do think that they could have had something to kind of do it both ways, where he has Aang go through all of these tricks and trials and doesn't tell him who he truly is. And maybe the first trials were a little bit cruel because he was kind of bitter. But as the trials go on, they get more fun and whimsical because he's starting to remember what it was like to be with Aang. And then he admits that, yeah, he being in the war for this long has changed him to a certain extent, but it hasn't changed him completely. He is still the Boomy that Aang remembers, just a little bit beaten up and scarred.
There is room for a
Yeah.
hybrid. I definitely agree there. And there are elements that people have highlighted that, like, this is, I think, a weaker version of Boomy. I don't dislike the direction they took, because I think, honestly, if someone is this old and has gotten through this much shit, them being a little bit hardened, them being like, I have been beaten down by the world, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And then also blaming Aang.
Especially-
The problem, a big problem with it, though, is, again, changes made to Aang, where he's not as carefree and floating around and doing things.
Right,
So a lot
because
of the
with
you're
that,
at
the
fault.
contrast just isn't there.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
is no contrast, so it beats the point of having Boomy to be this cynical.
Yeah.
because Aang is just as cynical.
Aang keeps beating himself up over the fact that he ran away, but not really, because he didn't actually run away, and everyone just assumes he ran away, but that's not what happened. I mean, someone
Well,
did point
he
out
did run
fairly.
away, but he didn't run away from the war, and the show even contradicts that, because he was told, if you stayed with us, you just would have gotten slaughtered with everyone else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that contradicts the idea that he should have stayed. And like, I can understand to a certain degree that everyone thinks that he shouldn't have run away and that he obviously did and all this kind of stuff. But like, the fact that he was never really this fun carefree person to begin with in the show kind of sets him on this path to begin with, to just be kind of this wooby that gets fucking beaten up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just constantly kicked in the stomach, and it gets really exhausting.
It's really sad
does.
when like the idea that they had for this character ends up being sabotaged by one of their own pieces of writing.
Yep.
It's like, I could see what you wanted to do with this Boomy, and I like the angle you took with this Boomy, but you didn't really build into this idea that you had with Boomy, and it just kind of ended up a little bit flat. Also, the ending was also kind of contrived. I didn't like the whole friends reign at the last minute.
Yeah.
Secret
guess-
tunnel! Secret tunnel! Sorry, I'm thinking about this episode. now.
No.
I understand the direction that they were going for with the reason why Katara and Sokka ran in to help him. Because like Boomy thinks
It's
like,
just so
you have to do
unfortunate.
this alone. You're the Avatar. You have to do this alone. Blah 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 blah. And then, honestly, this is the most cartoony shit that they've done in the live action. Was being like, no, he
True.
doesn't have to be alone. We're
really
the anime
was.
Nakama. And whatever, even though that we
My
should
friends
know
are
that
my
in
power.
all of the history of Avatar, the Avatar has never been fucking alone.
Well, no, Kudak.
No, Kodak had his own group of people,
Oh,
his own friends
Did he?
that helped him. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
There was one guy who knew everything about what Kodak was going through, and he helped keep his secret from all of his other friends. All of his other friends who were frustrated with him and didn't understand why he was acting this way. But his friend helped him through that because he was the only one who knew what Kodak was actually doing.
Kudak Alpha in a Spirit World DBZ battle, and his friends is out here. It's like, what? Kudak? Yeah, no, he went out for a walk. What's that sound? I'm hungry. Make me some eel stew.
Please.
He's a really awkward guy standing outside the door all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
You guys
Kyoshi novel had a team avatar. I think Cheng Yi also had her own team avatar. Like it just seems like having a team avatar is just a thing. So the fact that Boomy says that he has to be alone is kind of ridiculous.
And even the other avatars say that you have to walk alone. It's
That
like,
is weird.
yeah.
It's really weird how they emphasize that now that I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Confluence of events, does Aang restore his faith rather than the reverse? Because, Uno reverse card for reasons, because that's what we do in the series. Do you guys remember Commander then Admiral Zhao, the villain of season 1, not just for the Avatar gang, but the villain for Zuko as well? He was a competent guy, he had rage issues, but he was very disciplined and very tactful. Well, Uno reverse card to that, because Zhao is a bumbling idiot in this particular series. And in fact, they said he
No.
failed his officer.
He's not necessarily a bumbling idiot. I mean,
Yeah,
to
I
a
wouldn't
certain
say
degree
he's
he
an
is.
idiot. I would say he's like more basically like
insecure.
I said
He's
before.
a
They turned him into
worm
a
tongue. They turned him into a
Yeah.
worm tongue.
Which isn't a bad thing.
yeah. They turned him into Starscream,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily
No,
bad.
being Starscream is
It's
a bad
just
thing.
that
Worm tongue's a better analogy.
Yeah.
Where-
He's not quite a little finger, but he is certainly not a Starscream.
Right. He's a much more
Right.
plotting, much more manipulative motherfucker, and admittedly, he is second fiddle to Azula to some extent, but it really feels like they are using each other. Like he's willingly he's not disagreeing with any of
Right.
Azula's plans. It's not just because he actually believes he can make things work. It's
God, the fact
Yes.
though that they actually had him say the lines that he will become Fire Lord and take over the world, that was so ridiculous.
It was.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was really fucking terrible to end his character off on.
Yeah.
Exam 3 different.
Did he think he was going to marry Azula? Was that kind
I-
of his plan? Do you think?
Yeah.
I kind of wonder. Yeah.
Well,
like that-
to be fair, the Fire Nation is based on Japan, so
I mean, the other thing is, like, that sounds creepy, and it is. Like, don't get me wrong. By modern standards, marrying off a 14-year-old girl is creepy as fuck. But
yeah.
by ancient, like, royal, by royal and feudal decree, like, marrying off, like, 12-year-olds in, like, political marriages was a whole
Yep.
thing. And the idea of Zhao, like, building this prestige and then maybe working with Azula to get them married so that they could, like, have this kind of dual thing going on. And inevitably one of them's going to stab the other in the back.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
that makes complete sense to
I would
me.
I would say that maybe that would be what he would plan to do, but honestly, Azula would never agree to that. Let's be honest.
Oh, she would lead him on. She would fucking
Oh,
lead
yeah.
him on hard. But then, like,
And then poison him.
yeah.
As soon as they got married.
Yeah, like, literally, wedding night was... I mean, that would have actually paid to see that. Like, that, like, cat and mouse fight where, like, Zhao think he has the upper hand and he's, like, gotten her poisoned. And then she does the whole, like, you see, it's iocane powder, and I have slowly spent years training myself and poisoning myself little by little so I would be expertly trained to resist it.
Different times because he's so incompetent and ridiculously stupid and absurd, and
What?
the only reason he gets promoted to admiral is because Azula is using him as a puppet through letters, by the way, which is just another way to cram more dumb, boring exposition into this series. And he doesn't even come up with the plan to take out the moon spirit on his own. He just gets the notice from Azula that that's what he should do, and he randomly says at one point in the story that he wants to become the new Fire Lord, and he sucks in every possible way.
Okay, one, no, he doesn't. He's been a worm the entire time, even before Azula gets involved, like, halfway through his story. Like, he's already a competent threat during that time. And there's a reason he garners her attention. He's actually doing shit. He's being effective. He is outmaneuvering people. Just because he keeps losing at certain points doesn't mean that he is a loss. You lose things in military tactics. It happens. And as we've learned, the Fire Nation doesn't necessarily bother about things they lose so long as they can cut and run and then, like, regroup.
Yeah.
Twy, are you trying to say anything?
Hello?
Hello? Twy?
I think we lost her.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back now.
Okay. Were you trying to say something that entire time?
Not really. I got interrupted, then my cord went, and then I couldn't hear anything for a little while.
Oh, oof.
Yeah.
Right. So I was
Okay.
finished explaining that Zhao isn't, I don't think, necessarily a fuck up. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
me neither. Like,
he captures Aang outside of Azula's orders, right? His capture
Yeah.
of Aang is completely on his
yeah,
own.
it was.
In fact, I think he only gets conscripted by Azula about, like, in the last 2 or 3 episodes. So it's like, I don't know what this guy is going off about, that Zhao is a complete and utter incompetent clown. He hasn't lost any more than he did in the original show.
I
Pretty
think
much.
the fact that Zhao is a lot more sniveling in this version, which rubbed me the wrong way also, but, like, I understood what they were doing with him. Because Zhao was a very confident and arrogant character in the original cartoon. So to make him kind of a sniveling, groveling, pathetic kind of guy who was
It's
going
another
to-
thing where it's all like you're drastically changing who the character is.
Yeah. So it's a big change, and I can understand it, but also that to say that he is completely pathetic is not quite right.
Also, was it Azula
Yeah.
that told him about the spirit stuff?
I forget.
That's what this guy's
think-
claiming. I don't remember exactly. It's been a little bit.
I don't remember either. I do remember that this is the scene where he's learning about it at a table in the Fire Lord's palace, so she might have been there, but I can't quite recall.
Let me get my notes out.
I'm glad that you didn't delete them.
Oh, I wrote them down in a notebook.
Ah, yeah.
They're
Well,
hand printed.
tear them out.
You just ball them up and throw them
I don't know
away.
what you do with your notes after you're done with them.
That's the only downside is I can't control F through physical notes.
Yeah.
The duality.
That's why I always copy my notes into digital media after I'm done with them.
Right.
That's another good piece of writing advice. If you're struggling with writing, write with pencil and paper.
Yes.
You'll have a better time thinking because your brain can catch up with your pen or your pencil.
Yeah,
And
and
then
your brain
when-
better remembers things when you write them down tactily.
Yeah. And then when
Mhm.
you're done, you can always just transcribe them onto your computer.
Yep, which then better reinforces memory stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't like his take here on Zhao. I really enjoyed Zhao. I know that I'm the dissenting opinion in that, but I liked him.
because he's been Uno reversed as well. I mean, even his death in the series is Uno reversed. Originally, he ends up fighting Zuko. Zuko gets the
Yeah, I
upper
didn't like his
hand,
death
but
either.
then
Yeah,
the
no, that's
Ocean
fair.
Spirit
Yeah,
wants to
I don't
take him
think
for
anyone
revenge
does.
into the spirit world, and Zuko goes to grab him to save him, but Zhao would rather die than be saved by Zuko, so he pulls away and leaves. In this particular one, the Ocean Spirit has no involvement at all. Zuko just turns his back on him, and he tries to strike against Zuko, and then General Iroh just murders him because I guess
Yeah,
it's
honestly,
different.
having the
Uno
old ending for
reverse.
Zhao
Now,
would have been way stronger with his characterization here because it shows that he has
It
such
would've.
pride in
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This isn't-
especially it makes no sense for Zuko to hold back from finishing him in this version. Like there is just no way.
Yeah.
a perfect Uno reverse, but the fact that they're reversing different character traits and whatnot really undercuts the premise of this.
This is where your whole Uno reverse thing starts to fall fucking apart because you're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not a perfect one. It's still in like, no, shut the fuck up. It's a bad analogy.
Yeah, either
Stop
it's
it.
a reverse.
When the Uno reverse gets Uno reverse.
Oh no, Uno reverse got Kaiser.
No.
And the fact
Oh,
that they just
God.
revealed this
You're fine
information
now.
too early.
Okay, I was
also really
saying like
hurts it.
either
And I'm-
it's a reverse or it's not. Like,
Yeah.
Zuko and then General Iroh just murders him because I guess it's different. Uno reverse. Now, this isn't a perfect Uno
What?
reverse, but the fact that
it's
they're
all right, I
reversing
skipped back a
different
little bit.
character traits and whatnot
Oh, okay.
really undercuts the premise of this, and the fact that they just revealed this information too early also really hurts it. And I'm talking about, of course, the relationships between Iroh, Lu Ten, Zuko, and Fire Lord Ozai. For those you don't know, in the original series, Iroh's son Lu Ten died in the siege of Ba Sing Se, which caused Iroh to go on this spiritual journey. Zuko is being treated like crap by his father, who never really cared for him, so Iroh becomes Zuko's surrogate father, Zuko becomes Iroh's surrogate son. And this relationship builds throughout the course of the series upon the things that we see, like Zuko's bad relationship with his father, and then it's revealed that Iroh lost his son. But for some reason in this show, they reveal Iroh's son's storyline in episode 4 or 3, I don't remember, but it was really early.
You didn't
And that's
check?
even before they reveal the origin
Why
of
didn't you
Zuko's
check?
scar. So they haven't
The
built
video.
up
Like
that
you
relation-
put this there, you recorded it, you could have paused it and looked it up.
God, like I ruined my sleep schedule for a little bit trying to watch both the original first season of Avatar and the Netflix adaptation within like the 3 days that Raymond had given us to when he decided that we are going to react to it. And then you didn't
You
even
see-
bother to check.
See, remember that thing we said about taking notes? Yeah, maybe do that.
Very important.
Actual Justice Warrior.
Very
Yeah,
important.
kind of important.
relationship,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because these are two of the better actors in the show, and you definitely feel it, but it has no time, and a lot of plot lines in this series just have no time. Now look, I'm not saying that
I
these
do
changes
agree
are
with
bad.
at least that
The
they didn't get enough time.
With this particular plot line, I don't know. I actually thought it breathed well enough, all things considered. But I'm
Yeah,
I think
Other plot
Yeah.
lines, sure,
It
but
ki-
this one I thought it was okay.
Yeah, he was talking about the other ones as well, and I said I agree that a lot of them don't have enough time.
Okay, yeah.
But just not this, because I think
Yeah.
this is one of those things where it's highly dependent on how the other seasons are going to handle it. Because hypothetically, I think you could make it work by showing the backstory between like Iroh and Zuko, especially with this format where we kind of have to have a much more have things be relatively more focused in the beginning compared to the original. I can see that, and just being able to develop that even more as the story goes on. It just depends on how they do it.
I just think that they blew their load a little bit too early with
It
the Luke
did.
Pen stuff.
Yeah.
If I had my way, I would have just not done it. But there is a way that they could recover now that the cum stain is on the floor.
Can we not carry through that analogy?
Because they're
Okay, I did
changes.
not expect that reaction.
Obviously, when you're adapting
Kaiser,
something,
Raven
you have to
is
leave.
very particular about
gross out
anything
humor.
that
I'm
involves
sorry.
manly or masculine things and sexual stuff. It's very funny.
I'm sorry, but like if it had been described as like, I don't know, womanly discharge, I would have had a similar reaction. I imagine.
Womanly
I don't like that stuff in casual conversation. Like in private talking with people and like making jokes. There's a level of comfort, but like, come on.
Feathery
And I
pearls.
dropped my dinner. Thank you. Oh no, Neil, I'm sorry.
Did you name? Oh yeah, I dropped my dinner. Okay, I was like, I thought you were saying that, and I thought you had named like your.
No.
dinner meal.
I'm reading Neil's comment in the chat. He said, "And I dropped my dinner. I'm sorry, dude."
And I thought this
I
was a
didn't think it would be
family
that bad.
channel. I'm sorry, Lashy Zal.
Kaiser, how could you do this to us?
Hey, you said blew your load first.
That's a more common analogy.
You can have like a loaded wad for a musket. Like that's where the term came from.
And a lot of plot lines in this series just have no time. Now look, I'm not saying that these changes are bad because they're changes. Obviously, when you're adapting something, you have to leave stuff behind and do some things differently. But the thing is, these are bad choices. They change things to make them worse in each and every example that I'm bringing up to you. And there's also changes.
They're bad executions.
Yeah, they're bad
Yeah.
executions.
We got to focus on that. The changes themselves are relatively neutral. There are a lot of ones where I can see, oh, that might be interesting. That could be cool. That could be fun. Like Boomy, good example of that. I could definitely see where they wanted to go with Boomy. They executed it poorly because of a number of compounding factors. That's the issue here.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the mythology, which are dumb. So for some reason in this series, Aang can only connect with his past lives and transform into his past avatar forms when he is in a shrine of the avatars.
I mean, to be fair, technically speaking, like, not in terms of contacting the other avatars, but transforming into each one, because, from being within their specific temples or whatever, that was in the original.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
So
I
I
never
don't
quite
understand,
liked the whole transform into an avatar thing. It never quite, or transform into another avatar. It never quite rung correct to me for some reason. I don't know how to describe it. He only did it a couple of times, right? Once for Roku, once for what's her face?
Kyoshi.
Kyoshi.
But he did that in the original show too. So do you?
Yeah, no,
object to that?
I'm saying that in the original show, I didn't quite like it either. It was just
Oh, okay.
just sort of like I don't know. It just kind of felt weird. But I get that the original show was very specific about when that could happen. I don't like I do agree that the whole he can't contact them in general. That's kind of
that's
a choice.
I have an even bigger problem with.
Like, I get, like, maybe going to these shrines help him gain his connection to them, but I feel like after he gains the connection, it should sort of be like an open call line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was never established in the original series. For some reason, it exists here, and I can't imagine why this is in the story, except for to set up for the fact that he can't channel and revert to the water avatar in the end of the episode. So it's like a pointless change in order to undo something that wasn't ever done in the original series, and it makes no sense at all. Another pointless change is that the moon spirits...
No, the reason it was changed was to get him to go to the different shrines.
Yeah.
That was the reason it was done. That was, like, that's the mechanic behind it. And while I think you could definitely make an argument you didn't need that, him understanding... I feel like this is a weird read on this.
rather than coming to Earth and living as the koi fish in order to be together, the moon and ocean spirit, they just come to Earth only on the ice moon because it's one day a year, and that's supposed to substantially change the story for some reason, even though it doesn't change the events at all. On top of that, for some reason, the moon spirits have to be killed.
It was a weird change. It definitely was not necessary. They didn't need to make that kind of change.
No.
With a knife that the waterbending avatar...
They, like, it goes back to the idea that they're trying to, quote-unquote, fix issues in the show. Because you can have people say, well, why haven't people discovered this before and then tried to kill the ocean and the moon spirits before this? They're just sitting ducks in that pond, that kind of thing. Like that, and then the solution will be, well, they only come like one night of the year or whatever.
But
like,
the obvious solution is
then,
it happens to be built into the side of a fucking glacier protected by an entire civilization of people. It's like,
yep.
Yes. Not to mention, even though, okay, we have the magic knife thing, but you can still pick what's stopping somebody from picking them up and out of the pond and drowning? Like, I can understand that you can only kill them with this weapon if, like, otherwise they're just incorporeal even in their mortal forms, but you can still touch the damn thing.
Well, it's like also
like this makes things
form.
way more overly complicated.
It's a mortal form.
Like, yeah,
why do you need a knife?
Yeah, so what's the point of the knife? What's the point of the magic, making the knife magic? They're mortal.
Mortal is a very specific definition used in relation to deities.
Yeah, what?
They're still immortal because it's not like the koi fish die and they have to get reborn into another koi or whatever.
I love the idea of someone
mortal...
just kills the koi and then just another koi appears and they pick up that koi, they kill it, another koi appears, another.
You can have infinite fish at that point.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like times of a famine, the North just go up there and kill the koi fish over and over and over again. And it's just like, oh great, we just have all this koi we can eat. I'm sure it's not the tastiest meat, but we'll make with it.
It's better than nothing.
Are made from spirit wood, metal, whatever weaponry, and that's like a part of the thing, so it's like an unnecessary MacGuffin mixed up in there. And again, these changes add nothing except muddying up the mythos, making it worse. But that's not the worst, most egregious problem with this show. Because it's only 8 episodes and Avatar The Last Airbender is 22 episodes, one of the strategies that they use is they want to combine and jumble a bunch of episodes from Season 1 and Season 2 in these individual episodes. So when you have the whole thing going on with Omashu, at the same time, you have the Jet storyline happening, but also at the same time, you have the Mechanist storyline happening, who is not at the Northern Air Temple like he was in the original series. He is in Omashu. Now, the problem with jumbling all 3 of these storylines into the same episode is that you have characters that have individualized arcs that are tied into these episodes, and they can't fulfill those arcs as originally intended. A perfect example of this is Sokka. So Sokka is with the Mechanist, and if you guys remember, Sokka's a tinkerer, he's an idea man, and he helps the Mechanist design what would eventually become the hot air balloon, which becomes the warship that the Fire Nation uses to fly, and by the way, shouldn't be utilized this early in the series anyway, but that's a whole other issue. And you see how smart and innovative Sokka can be. But also, Sokka is crucial to the Jet storyline, because that's all about him trusting his instincts as a warrior, and the fact that Sokka showed mercy to an old man actually allows him to save the village in the end of that particular episode when Aang and Katara fail. But since Sokka can't be in two places at once, he can't share the arc of that particular story. He can't shine there.
Right.
We can't.
Well, yeah, but that's this is where we're getting from
Here's the
from
thing.
flat criticism to concession. This is, I think, a
Yeah.
concession of having to fuse these storylines together to make them work the way they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
think
the issue is, I think you could make this work by having the Jet storyline be a bit. Well, they tried to make it be more a Katara thing, but it barely goes anywhere because Katara's barely developed in throughout the show in general. So
Yeah.
if they just built her better and her place in that arc better, you could have relatively the best of both worlds here. It's just
well,
that
and
the
also the
execution's
fact that
not.
Sokka sticks up for someone who might end up being a Fire Nation spy, and he's like, well, for all we know, he could be a
Yes.
double agent. He could be getting information. It fills the role you're describing from the Jet arc. Like, it
Yes.
fills both roles. This is someone he both looks up to, but also is like, maybe he's not a bad guy. Maybe there's something else going on here that we don't know about, and you're being misled.
Yeah, the only issue with that is that, from what I remember, anyways, the Tinkerer himself is, and his place in the story is relatively drastically different from how he
Yes.
is in the original. Because I don't remember him being a double agent in the original at all.
Oh, he was. He was. I
Um,
remember that being a he.
Oh, okay.
That was a whole thing where they
Okay,
tried
never
to get
mind.
into the Avatar room and they opened the gates using
Right.
the air. And when they get in there, it's just filled with a bunch of prototype Fire Nation tech.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
'cause
Okay,
it
I forgot
was-
about that.
It was revealed that a year after they moved in, the Fire Nation came back and they threatened him and they said, "You have to make us weapons or we're going to destroy you and your family."
Okay, yeah.
Also, very
that
quickly,
episode,
I'm
but
going to
okay.
correct myself. I said that it was like Mr. Centipede or something. That was the spirit. No, it was a creature called Father Glowworm.
Wiggly.
Yeah. So that was the monster that Kodok had one of the monsters that Kodok had fought aside from Ko.
Oh,
was Father
damn.
Glowworm.
Trying to do. I need to see this.
Looks pretty cool.
Oh, that's a dope looking spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost looks like something that would be from.
He's got a little
Almost
bit.
reminds me of something that would be from like
Some of his
maybe like one of a Disney show.
some of his wispies do remind me a little bit of Rava. Not a fan of that. but-
Yeah.
all right.
Can't see that Sokka, even though he's insecure, is actually insanely competent. He's actually quite skilled, so it undercuts his character development. On top of that, because you don't have Katara and Sokka being held hostage by King Bumi, there's no real reason for Aang to engage in the trials of King Bumi, so that storyline doesn't work as well.
What about the threat of fucking
Well,
death? Because
Yeah, I was about to
Aang
say.
was basically being held at Blade Point the entire time.
Yes.
And I mean,
That's
I don't think Aang wants to fight his way out of a friendly city.
not to mention
Nope.
Aang wanted, like, at least at that point, to try to reason with Boomy anyways. He already has a personal connection and motivation to stick around to see what the hell is going on.
That's a face right there. Let me tell you that Avatar.
Oh, he looks like he's about to sneeze.
well. So you have all these storylines running concurrently in the same episode, but none of them have their impact because none of them have been designed the way that they should be, and they've been combined very haphazardly, and it's just a problem throughout the course of this series. However, the most egregious example of this is in the episode where Aang needs to deal with Heibai, the spirit of the forest.
Yeah.
Or should I say, is in the episode where Aang supposedly needs to deal with Heibai, the spirit of the forest, but for some reason, which is the fact that Ko, the face stealer, is considered cooler, they end up focusing on him rather than Heibai. Now, this episode also contains the storyline where Aang has to go into the Fire Nation in order to convene with Roku's spirit
Yeah,
from
that
the
was a
Solstice
bad
episode.
decision.
And it has the Blue Spirit episode where Aang has to escape from Zhao's custody with the help of Zuko as the Blue Spirit in order to save his friends' lives. So all of this is
I
combined.
do like that they changed it so that instead of just them being sick, he was needing to get back to save them from the spirit world, though.
Yeah,
I did say that in the last
like
stream.
if they just like kept it to just combining the Heibai storyline and the Blue Spirit one, this would be much better, I think. But I think the fact that they had to add in the Roku stuff in there as well just makes it not work as well as it should.
I mean, I go back to I don't like the prophecy thing that he was given by frickin' Kyoshi. I think that's,
that too.
That I think kind of set them on the wrong foot for all of that.
Right.
Jumbled together, but I want to really focus on this Heibai and Ko situation. Now, focusing on Ko rather than Heibai would be a lot worse if Heibai was the most important spirit in the entire animated series, and Ko was this all-style, no-substance, cool creature, but works better with the mystery, and everything you reveal about his origin actually makes him worse. And the thing is, Heibai is the most important spirit in the entire series, and
No.
Ko is a cool design.
What?
He's an interesting character, but again, everything you reveal about his backstory makes the character worse.
What do you mean?
What the fuck are you
Wait,
talking
wait,
about?
Wait. I
What do you
wanna
mean that Heibai
roll
is the
that
most
back
important character?
because I'm legitimately confused about what he's saying here.
All right, everyone listen closely.
Ko rather than Heibai would be a lot of his friends' lives. So all of this is combined and jumbled together. But I want to really focus on this Heibai and Ko situation. Now, focusing
Okay.
on Ko rather than Heibai would be a lot worse if Heibai was the most important spirit in the entire animated series, and Ko was this all-style, no-substance, cool creature, but works better with the mystery, and everything you reveal about his origin actually makes him worse. And the thing is, Heibai is the most important spirit in the entire series, and Ko is a cool design. He's an interesting character, but again, everything you reveal about his backstory makes the character worse. Let me explain. So I think the
Bullshit.
That is a
Okay,
bold.
whoa,
You know what?
whoa,
You know
whoa,
what? He's
okay.
going to explain himself. That is a bold statement. Let us see where he takes it.
All right, let's see how. Yeah.
Let's. It's a bold strategy, Patton. Let's see. Let's see where he
Let's
goes.
see.
The face stealer thing is self-explanatory, but in this particular storyline, Aang needs to get a totem of Ko's mother, who is a woman with many faces who gave faces to humanity that apparently Roku had in his shrine. So again, you're just jumbling all this crap in the same episode, and he needs to trade that for the people that Ko took. But the Heibai thing is borderline unforgivable, and it fundamentally shows that these new showrunners do not get the entire premise of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because like I said, Heibai is the most important spirit in the entire series. So to
Why don't you
explain
tell
why
him,
Heibai
motherfucker?
is the
Wait. He's about to
most
explain
important
it.
spirit in the overall series, I kind of gotta, give you an idea of the original episode where he debuted, because it kind of explains everything for itself. So in that original episode, Aang shows up in a forest. He finds that the forest is torched by firebenders. They just scorched through it, destroyed it, and he's really sad and depressed by it. The forest was peaceful, it was in harmony, and then it was wounded by the actions of the Fire Nation. And Heibai, by the way, which is a panda bear presented as very peaceful in nature, also a yin-yang symbol, is something that represents balance. But that balance was thrown off by the Fire Nation. And in response to the balance being thrown off by the Fire Nation, Heibai transforms into another form that is raged out, super powerful, a threat to everybody around him, and completely out of control. And you can't overwhelm him physically because he's so powerful. And the way they are able to restore Heibai back to his peaceful form is by showing him an acorn. And they give him this acorn, and it represents the fact that the forest will regrow, it will be reborn, the next cycle will continue, and balance will be restored. And that puts Heibai at peace. He transforms back into a panda bear. You see the yin-yang thing, and it kind of is the entire premise of the whole goddamn series, and the fact that they missed this in order to show you some
wait. Okay,
You
do
did not
I
elaborate
agree
what you
with
mean by it being the heart of
Why
the series.
the,
What
the
hell?
mo- yeah, not
Well,
yeah.
he said the most important spirit. The most important spirit.
Which
So,
that's not true.
yeah, like I said, Wan Shi Tong, motherfucker. He is an incredibly important spirit in the show.
Yeah.
I think
He's more important than Heibai. Like,
I-
you could make the
hold on.
argument that he's important thematically.
that's what I was gonna
but-
say. I think this is what he's leaning on
Yeah.
right now is
But I don't think
thematicism.
I don't think that he's more important thematically than Wan Shi Tong.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I get being upset. We were actually just talking about this earlier. Is that like
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
reducing Heibai, you have lost the elements of what the Avatar is supposed to do is balance between the human world and the spirit realm. The problem
Right.
that I would contend with there is in the actual main show, it's the original show doesn't really explore the spirit realm all that much, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of turmoil on the other side of the spirit world. I don't recall there being any. Is that correct?
There isn't, but the show establishes that if the human world is out of balance for long enough, it will also start affecting.
Well,
the
yeah,
spirit world as
there's
well.
that element of it, but I'm seeing like
Right.
it's not like Aang has to go into the spirit world and fix things like Korra did.
Yeah.
Korra focused much more on there's a spiritual world you have to help.
Yeah,
fix.
they have an entire season for that, right?
Yeah.
And
But,
meanwhile,
like,
in
with
Avatar,
that-
in,
yeah.
in the original The Last Airbender, they only dealt with the spirit world when it was dealing with matters of the physical world.
Yes.
I think Heibai is the only spirit in the original show that appears twice, though, because there is a brief moment in in season 1 where Heibai does return, and
Right.
because Aang helped him out, he gives Aang a ride through the spirit world.
Well, that's still in season
Oh
1.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that was a good
watched
moment.
it
But
recently,
like,
remember, I would.
I
know.
know. I'm just double
Okay.
checking because my memory is not as good. And
I haven't.
You calling
I
her
haven't
a
watched
liar,
seasons 2
Raymond?
or 3.
you calling her a liar?
no,
Are you calling me a liar?
no. It doesn't.
But, like-
it doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay, but
Yeah,
like
no,
as I was
I only recently rewatched season 1. I didn't rewatch books 2 and 3, so that it
Right,
would be
yeah.
fresh in my mind because of that.
Yeah, but like as I was going to say though, the like I can understand, like Raymond said, I can understand Heibai being very important thematically to one of the core aspects of the series. I don't, and I guess he might be the most characterized. This is the problem when I hear him say he is the most important,
Yeah.
right? Because I
Yeah,
feel like that's
'cause
an
he
incredibly
specified
loaded term.
The most important.
I mean, fuck.
which
If you
is
really
what
want
we
to
have
get
a
there,
point.
the lion turtle literally comes out of the fucking woodwork to give the answer to Aang. Like that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a very important character. Even if I disagree with it because it's a Deus Ex Machina,
Yes.
It's it's still a very important character. And there are other spirits that also make present that are present. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Ko shows up
But
to be a
then-
big threat for a while.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of his statement. But then, I mean, sorry, that's the second part of his statement here. The first part of his statement, he says that the more we know about Ko's backstory, it makes him worse. What does he mean by that?
Well, also like this. How does it make it worse? Because this
In
stuff
all
is still
style, no
canon.
substance? What do you mean?
him having a mother that also has to do with faces is substance, my dude.
Yeah, and I
mean,
want to just
You may not like it, but it
like,
is substance.
the mystery. Ko wasn't really a mystery. He was just a spirit. It's like, okay, he existed.
Yeah.
He exists. He is a static part of this world. He is a terrifying force of nature that will, in the original, steal your face if you make an emotional expression. Like,
Yep.
I'm sorry. I don't care how much I know about his second cousin twice removed. That's still fucking terrifying. I don't care if he played with Legos as a child or with dollies. If he can steal my face, if I scrunch my eyebrows too much, I'm going to be a little bit scared of this man for the rest of my goddamned life. Oh, and I'm sorry. In this version, he traps you in your worst situation ever to drain your will to live before stealing your face. That's a change that,
Yes.
well, it's, I think, a little less terrifying. It's still plenty fucking awful. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would have liked it better if maybe Heibai had done that, and then Ko was just being an opportunistic predator.
Yeah, that would have actually
But
been
no.
that would have been a really good meshing of the two stories, and
Yeah,
that would have, oh god, that would have been such a smarter idea.
yeah.
It would. But
Because
fact
then you
of
could
the matter
also get a
is, like,
flashback of the people, like, you could have Katara and Sokka wandering around and encountering people from the village, or that are going through their own most traumatic moments, or you have them, you have him see, either of them see the actual burning of the forest, like that sort of thing happening.
Yeah, but like I think, and the real issue is that I think when he says that he's, I guess, I'm trying to figure out what he means, like all style, no substance, like no substance in to the extent that we don't learn all that much about him within the original Avatar itself. I mean, sure, but he has a very specific
also don't
role
have
in that
to.
show, and he fulfills that role. Yeah, we don't have to know that because that's not his role. That's not his purpose. And also, but like then he says everything we do learn about him makes him worse. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not much into the expanded stuff that are in the comics. So any y'all in chat can verify this for me. But do you have any idea what this dude is talking about in regards to Ko's backstory? Because all I know is that, like, okay, he's related to the mother of faces and shit, and that's
Well,
about it.
I think that is
Okay.
what he means when he says his backstory, because that is the only thing that we have learned about Ko in the Netflix live action is that Ko has a mother, and the idol is connected to his mother, and Roku had stolen the item from him at some point, and he wants it back.
And that makes him worse.
I don't understand
What?
how that is a all style no substance character.
You know, I'm almost wondering if the idea that Roku had this object is what ended up spurring them to give the prophesized, like, destructive moment to Kyoshi in the first place.
Maybe.
I'm getting like a writer tingler sense, just like, oh, weird. I feel like this would be like a cool idea that someone had in the writing room, and they actually rewrote everything to fit it.
It would have made a lot more sense to have Kuruk have that item though instead of Roku.
Oh, totally. But like it doesn't make sense for them to get all the way to the north before encountering all this shit. So I get why it wouldn't have been. But you could have had a shrine to Kuruk somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's not just married to one spot. You could have shrines all over the place. In fact, that probably creates a plot hole now that I think about it. What defines a fucking shrine?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Necessary backstory about Ko really goes to show you that these Netflix guys don't understand Avatar: The Last Airbender, because everything I just told you about Heibai fits perfectly with Aang. He is somebody who is very peaceful in nature, very much in balance. But guess what? The Fire Nation destroyed part of the world. They threw the world out of balance with their aggression. Aang also rages out when he goes into the Avatar state. He is uncontrolled power in that particular state, and he needs to be calmed down. On top of that, the acorn representing the next generation lines up perfectly with the Avatar cycle. It's almost as if the entire premise of the goddamn series is contained in the Heibai episode, and when you don't do the Heibai episode justice, all the things that follow don't really work. It's also a perfect setup for the death of the moon spirit, because the moon and ocean spirit represent yin and yang as well as the koi fish. And when the moon spirit gets killed, the ocean spirit rages out, turns into a giant monster, and is not satiated until balance is restored, until the moon is restored. So it's also the perfect setup for the end of season 1, and also symbolically the same journey that needs to go on throughout the course of the series. But they cut that to give you Ko's mother statue and how he wants that back from Avatar Roku, because wow, Ko is really cool because he's a face stealer and he was a cool character that appeared briefly in the original series, and gosh, he's so cool. Isn't this so much more mature that they're like, that cool thing is way cooler than Heibai, so let's cut Heibai completely out of the series because that looks cooler, because isn't that cool? Didn't you want to know more about
I'm so fucking annoyed by
I
this.
feel like
Yeah, he's,
Yeah, I was-
he's
like you
completely
had a
ignoring
point. You had
everything else.
a little bit of point about the
yeah, you have a
microcosm.
really good point, but
Now you're because
you're
like
just ruining it. Like, I understand digressions like this because it's part of like YouTube comedy. right?
Yeah.
I do that shit all the fucking time.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
I'm no
the
better
reason
at
why
this.
it makes it funny is because it actually makes sense as a criticism.
But Ko
Like, it's
isn't
Yeah.
just
extra funny.
cool. He actually has a thematic point about characters growing beyond their darkest traumas and
Yeah.
showing like the nature of what Aang, fuck it,
Yeah.
bring that back. What Aang was
God.
able to do by shrugging it off the temptation to fall into that rut. Like,
Yes.
there are things to explore with Ko and how he was utilized in this story. And you know what? By the end of the day, I might agree with you. I might agree that it's strictly worse than how it was handled in the original show. But the fact that
Sure.
you're not giving it any kind of deeper thought annoys the fuck out of me, because
Yeah, exactly.
goddamn,
and
that
that-
Sokka scene where his father talks about how he was disappointed in him and Bato goes to bat for him and his father's like, no, you know as well as I do, he's not cut out for this.
That was decent.
That-
That was a decent
That
scene. Yeah.
tugged my goddamn heartstrings, the expression on Sokka's face. So, like, don't
Yeah.
say there's nothing of worth here, that he's all flash and no substance.
Oh, but Raymond, he's doing the Eric Cartman thing where it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we saw Ko? Wouldn't it be cool? Like, dude, again, I understand these sorts of digressions. YouTubers do it all the time. I do it all the time. But you gotta know when to fucking cut it because it's not that funny.
Ko? Isn't
Sorry,
Ko
not
kinda...
sorry.
What?
Oh, I said sorry, not sorry. It is not that funny, and you do not have the voice for it. I'm just gonna say that straight up. I'm sorry.
sound like he's cool? Why even worry about this thing called symbolism? A representation of the ideas in the story? A visual representation of the balance that needs to be struck in the series? What even is that?
The theme of the show?
Tying in symbolically to Aang? Why
Oh
would
my
we do
fucking
that when
God.
we could just later have characters do exposition in the most uncomfortable, awkward, and clunky ways humanly possible, instead of having the story and the visual representation of ideas to tell itself?
Okay, here's an idea for you, smartass. What if they instead fused Ko and Heibai together? What if
Yeah.
what if Ko was now the dark version of Heibai, which, you know, I mean, change in monster design, but what if those two had been one and the same? And like Aang's appeasal there was basically the same as like it was an acorn the entire time. What then? What then? Does that change the metric at all for you?
Yeah, it would still thematically fit.
Well, like he's so stuck on the thematic element that he doesn't even realize that they switched out one thematic element for another one.
That's what I was saying. Like earlier
Right.
on, back with the whole Fire Nation, like the opening fight scene with the Fire Nation and the Earthbenders, where it
Yeah.
was basically a microcosm of the entire nature of the Fire Nation. Like
Mm-hmm.
he completely missed that. And it's like one of these things that you're not trying to look at what the show itself is trying to present to you. You are so hung up on what it used to be in the original, which goes even further back to your whole view on adaptation, where you can't somehow adapt something into a different
It's
medium.
like the idea of it isn't in his eyes. Instead of looking at the execution, there is a way that they could have executed this different way of framing the what was it, the themes of the story differently and have it succeed very well. It's just that they didn't do it right, and
Correct.
even then they still succeeded in a couple of areas.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But
That's
he
the
just
reason
doesn't want to.
why it's an enjoyable series is because they managed to actually succeed here and there. They actually managed to go through and they hit a couple of the notes, a couple of the shots, and most of the shots they took, I would argue, just not a majority. Yeah.
Look, I'm
So,
sorry,
yeah,
guys.
he's
I
just
know
being
some of you
obnoxious here.
definitely like the series. I know that the critics' reviews and the audience reviews are relatively positive, but when you don't understand the basics of the series, you don't understand what's important, what needs to be expanded upon, what needs to be left in, and what doesn't need to be expanded upon, then I can't praise your show. This is absolutely crucial material, and they cut it back for something that they thought was cooler, which is fine if you're writing fan fiction, but this is supposed to be a same story or some version of the same story, but
Says
it
the guy
has
that he
none.
doesn't know that a lot of the stuff that he's complaining about is in the extra material of Avatar.
Yeah, and it also says the guy
Yeah.
that can't interpolate new meaning from new information that's being presented to him.
it's
It's like, oh, if you don't understand the theme of the original, you shouldn't be making it. Well, maybe you should start understanding the theme of the new thing. Maybe
Yeah.
that might help
Right.
to some degree. I
like
feel
and
like
it's not like the theme. It's not like the thematic points in this version of the story are that drastically different from the thematics of the original either.
it's
So the
a-
fact that he's hung up on this point is just even more like feckless.
None of the heart, none of the soul, and it doesn't even.
whoa.
But this is supposed to be a
Whoa.
same story or some version of the same story, but it has none of the heart, none of the soul, and it doesn't even symbolically represent the same thing.
Okay, one, it doesn't need to symbolically represent the same thing. It needs to be a good adaptation. It needs to be a good story. That base
Yeah.
plate. That's the bottom line.
Right.
Like, I understand,
Number one.
but also none of the heart, none of the soul. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, you literally praised. Like Zuko and Iroh together in the beginning of this shit. Am I misremembering? Didn't he
Like,
do
Yeah,
that?
I was like, there are clearly elements of the story, like throughout this entire show. I understand that there might be one or two people that don't care, that are here for a paycheck. I can understand that there are people that might not understand things properly or might not direct things properly, but there's also people that
Sure.
clearly do along the way. And when they're in charge or when they're allowed to be, it seems like there's a lot of passion and love behind this version of the story. Like I saw the actors behind the scenes talking about their roles and actually giving interviews. They very much love this show and they're really excited to do the things they're doing. So are you going to tell me that they don't have any soul, that they don't have any passion for this? I'm sorry, this isn't goddamned Madam Web, where the main actress is actively like laughing at the movie in post-production because she didn't give a shit about it because she learned that it wasn't actually going to be Marvel. It's like, that isn't
Yeah.
this. It isn't the fucking, like, the Rise of Skywalker, where by the end of it, no one gave a shit. Like, and even then, I would argue that there were people that did care. It's just, it was kind of a too little too late type situation. I would not even say that fucking Rian Johnson didn't care about the
Rian.
Rian Ryan. I don't.
No, Ryan. No. If anything,
He cared
the
too
issue with
much.
Ryan Johnson was that he cared. Yeah, he cared too much about his vision and not on the vision that J.J. Abrams had.
It's like you to call something passionless. Like I would more.
Yeah, if this is your idea. If this is your idea of a soulless product, I don't know if you understand soulless products, dog. I don't know, man.
That is such a bold statement. It is a flawed product. That much is certainly true. But to call it,
yeah,
I don't understand where you're coming from, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have seen freaking soulless products. I've seen the freaking most boring adaptations of so many different manga and anime. Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer is one of my favorite manga of all time, and the anime adaptation was on some E-list level shit. It was terrible. I couldn't get past the first freaking episode. That shit was freaking soulless. How in the world could you compare this to that? I know most people don't know what it is, but I recommend reading it. Don't watch it, though. It's awful.
So yeah, Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender is a failure. It's not an M. Night Shyamalan level failure. It's not the worst thing ever. There's definitely some talent and creativity behind it.
But fuck you! What did you just say? Not 10 seconds ago.
All right, we got jabated. Just like the title is jabating.
I was gonna say,
us.
like,
my
also,
God.
oh yeah, it's not that bad. Oh, Netflix's Avatar
It's
is
terrible.
But
It
it's
is
not
terrible.
good, and this is the point. It's a poor imitation of the original series. Also, every time Katara throws water, they use the weakest splash effect, and it seems like a total joke. It's like they have somebody off
Last
camera
minute
throwing a small bucket of
critique?
water at these
All right.
characters, which makes waterbending look weak and crappy as hell. I never take much
Okay.
stock in the original creators approved this or original creators left the thing because they didn't like the direction it was going in, because oftentimes original creators are paid to praise absolute crap, and sometimes they leave projects for other reasons. But in this particular case, I do think that the Netflix crew wanted to go in a completely different direction. They missed the whole point of the series. They were disrespecting the source material, and this is what you have right here. A bland, forgettable, not really interesting.
I proved them wrong with how much focus that they were doing on the other elements of the show. By the way, this is what the Mother of Faces looks like.
Oh yeah, I saw that design in the comics. From what I've seen in the comics, it was like during the whole the Search arc. That is the only comics thing that I've ever read for Avatar. It was decent. But yeah, this design is really good. I really liked it.
Oh, I see. I had a thought.
Creators are paid to praise.
That's right. So the original creators, you know what Bryke could have done? You know what they could have done?
Yeah.
Even if the show is going against what they have originally intended for the series, they could have stayed on and still tried to help make it quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were the ones who wrote it. I think the idea of merging a couple of the stories together is actually a smart way of going about it. If Bryke were there, they could have actually
massaged
done
away a lot of the problems.
Yes.
If Bryke were there, they could have written potentially better dialogue. You could have had better lines. And Erzod, to get him back in this.
Yeah.
Like get all the
Aaron Ehas, yeah.
Ehas. So this if they needed to step away so they could go run Avatar Studios, fair enough. I understand time commitments are a bitch. And this isn't ultimately their project at the end of the day. It's Netflix's project. And if they disagree with the direction, so be it. But they still gave it their blessing by just handing it off. Like they haven't come out and derided it anyway. I feel like this is just I don't normally put stock in them, but here I'm going to put stock in them. It's like, fuck off.
absolute
Yeah.
crap.
I've said that
Sometimes
shit
they
like that
leak
before. I
projects
can't
for
say I'm
other
not a
reasons,
hypocrite in
but
that
this
word.
particular
But like,
case,
I'm seeing through
I
your
do think
hypocrisy
that the
here.
Netflix crew
From
wanted
one
to go in a
hypocrite to
completely
another.
different direction. They missed the
Yeah.
whole point of the series. They were disrespecting the source material, and this is what you have right here: a bland, forgettable, not really interesting, weirdly sometimes they CGI Aang's full body for no reason series that's just kind of really meh when you think about it.
Okay, you've been bringing up the effects now a lot in this last this last minute.
Yeah, I thought wouldn't the effects be the kind of thing you typically just like put in the beginning
Yeah,
because that's one of the
it's one of the most easily noticeable things like of the series, and I can say that the which I think you're
right. When you're making like videos, when you're making videos and you're trying to make a conclusion, try not to do like run-on sentence like stream of consciousness on a very
this
specific
guy
thing
doesn't
like
stop
this.
talking. Like I've been struggling to
Yeah.
find a place to pause because he just keeps on going. Motherfucker's an
It's like
Energizer Bunny.
you can't gish gallop your audience. You can't fucking shotgun your audience with points all the freaking time. You gotta pace things out.
Yeah.
This is why, in most of my videos, I try to have like proper conclusions to things, or at least structure whatever I'm talking about from least to most important, because that's a good way for your audience to understand how to, how to consume your works. It makes the points come out easier.
It's gonna sound basic, bitch. 5-paragraph essay.
Yeah.
It's a very good
Yes.
rule of thumb. Opening paragraph and the last line of which establishes the 3 major points you want to cover. Then you have a paragraph for the first point, a paragraph for the second point, a paragraph for the third point, and then a conclusory paragraph that brings it all together, typically with a line for each point to make sure you understand how they all connect. That's
Rhymes like poetry.
it's very basic. You learn it in like 3rd grade.
Yes.
And it serves you well through fucking college. All right,
It does.
and it will serve you well when
If
you're
it
making,
ain't broke, don't fix it.
yeah. And like the fact that I feel like this entire discussion has been such a mush. You want to know it's gonna be forgettable, this video.
You'll forget about it in a week, and I highly recommend, whether you're an adult or a children's, watching the original
adult or a
series,
children's.
because this ain't it. And it
Okay.
doesn't look like ever they're going to get this right in live action, which I'm okay with. The animated series is timeless. It can exist forever, and people should go watch it rather than this. You're not going to get anything out of this that's better or an improvement on the
Disagree.
original. All you're going to get is a further degraded version of it, which again is not as bad as the movie, but it's still not very good. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you liked this video, then show
Well,
me a
you'll
like,
certainly
subscribe for more
learn
content,
our
follow me on my
thoughts.
social medias. So
Yeah.
in the description of this video.
Somebody link our freaking live stream in his description. in his
No,
comment.
please don't.
No, I'm joking.
Good
I'm
rule of
joking.
thumb.
I didn't mean
Anyone
that.
we cover on here, please do not bother them. Do not bother
Yeah,
them. at
please
all.
no. No, that's
Dwight,
an
have you
extra.
been
I
trying to
was
say
joshing,
anything this
but,
entire
like,
time, or
yeah.
have you just been quiet? Twy?
Hello?
Twy? Twy?
Oh
Twy?
shit, we lost her again.
Twy! Dun dun da da dun. Dun dun dun. It is weird, like, seeing her not here, but her avatar is still moving and shit. I'm gonna just message her. Twilight. Ping that. Oh man. Well, that was the video. That review is terrible. And by that I mean it's nothing special.
I'm back.
Oh, there you are. Hello. You missed my zinger.
Sorry. Oh no, I got called away to get dinner.
So I ate beforehand, and I ate basically one of the shittiest meals I've eaten in months. So,
Well, good, because it's not my fault that I live several hours away from you in a different time zone.
the
We started this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is now 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Actually, we started at 3:00 in the afternoon for you. And now he's gone! Yay! He just upright left the entire call. What the hell, Kaiser?
Oh no. What?
Well, you gotta love scuff in the last minutes. You gotta be kidding
Oh,
me.
dear.
I think, man, well, he's gone. I basically say, like, I think we're good. I don't think we need to watch the next video on this. I think this one was enough.
Yeah, probably. I mean, was there anything unique in that other video that maybe we could touch upon specifically?
He harped more on the fact that you can't adapt animation into,
Oh,
which we already covered pretty thoroughly.
yeah, that's fair.
Also, what did Kaiser say?
Kaiser says,
My Wi-Fi is
Wi-Fi
going
is
Maverick. Be back in a few. Oh, we're wrapping up, man. Also, I read that as my wife is going Maverick, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for you, buddy. That might be terminal.
well,
But yeah, my review of this review is terrible, and by that I mean it's nothing special.
yeah, I think that his heart is maybe in the right place with this, but I do think that maybe he's going on a bit too much of a nostalgia fueled rant.
Yeah, it definitely felt like he was kind of trapped in the nostalgia, which, I mean, he
Yeah.
isn't. There are several points where he isn't wrong. Like that's part of the problem with this review is he's not wrong to have a lot of these critiques. There's a lot of things he gets right here. No, Kaiser does not
Yeah.
have a wife that I know of. Maybe he has like Karen from SpongeBob, but you know, I feel like there's a lot here that's being clouded by the fact that he just can't let go of the original interpretation of the show.
Mm.
JK Network says, advice on writing ships. Doing a three-way ship between three women. Two of the three are already dating, and the third is crushing on them. Chemistry is key, but you think I should play more into their personalities and beliefs, mixing and its pacing. You need a lot more information for me to be able to help there, man, because that really depends a lot on the personalities of the characters, whether or not they're even okay with opening up to a triplet relationship. That's already going to be a big hurdle for characters to overcome if they're not comfortable with it to begin with.
Yeah. One of the big problems that I have with multi-shipping like that is that the characters are always just automatically, for no reason at all, just okay with adding another person into their relationship. You could explore a lot of different things about that. Like maybe one is okay with it, but the other is not. And then you can work into them building up a rapport or a friendship with this other woman, and then they kind of have to slowly decide whether or not that's going to be a thing that they're going to want to do in the future. But um it shouldn't be simple, because relationships are difficult when it's just two people. You're adding in a third person, that is suddenly triple the amount of dynamics going on and triple the amount of difficulties going on there. um
Or
you're gonna have to be able to set up
okay.
a realistic romance between all three women in order to make it realistic in a story sense.
Okay. I'm guessing we're responding to somebody's super chat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's JK again.
Yeah,
All right, that's
he was
cool.
asking about um a three-way relationship between three women.
Ah, I see. Yeah, that's yeah, I think I caught the very end of what you were saying here, and
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um Honestly, I've never really seen anybody do a have like a whole story about a polyamorous relationship before, other than, well, girlfriend, which is a comedy anime and not what I would really imagine you're trying to go for here.
Oh, that's
Um,
unfortunate.
so I don't have too much advice in that sense. But I will say that you, as long as it makes sense for why these three characters are attracted to one another and you show the issues that might come from that kind of dynamic.
Guess what got nudged?
I
Hi!
think you'll be fine. I don't have anything else aside from that. Again, I've never seen this thing before.
I apologize for the terrible mic quality all of a sudden. I have been trying to talk this entire time, and my mic got nudged at some point. I don't know when, but I was trying to give you advice. It depends heavily on the character, the characters involved. It definitely. I was trying to explain there's a Witch from Mercury fanfic that I'm reading currently, and I've been reading, and surprisingly late game, one of the characters basically broached the idea of, like, hey, I'm really in love with you and I want to date you, and I understand that you're dating someone and I'm part of a polyamory relationship already. And, like, I want to make sure we're all open and communicating, and, like, it's the main love interest is confused, conflicted, doesn't know how to handle it. She talks to her girlfriend about it, and they've spent several chapters, these characters, trying to work through how this is going to work out, taking things slow and trying to figure out exactly how their dynamics going to pull off, and developing friendships between everyone. So, like, there's a lot there about, like, the nature of the personalities, the relationships that are unique to one another, how they all play together. Like, here's a good example. Here's a good question about your polyamory. Is it that one girl, like, two girls are in love, then two girls are in love, then two girls are in love, or are they all kind of in a thrupplet in love with each other? Because that's actually a different dynamic.
That's a good question.
Then, because, like, if you have two of them go off to sleep together, or another pair go off to sleep together, or the third pair go off to sleep together, and they always do it separately because that's the kind of dynamic they have, or is it that they're constant? What?
He said that the two were already in a relationship and they were
Well,
and
yeah.
the third was going to get involved.
But what I'm saying is, like, how are you going to what do you plan to develop them into? Because you have to start angling into that. Is, like, are they going to be sleeping all together all at once, or is it going to be more like one girl with another at one given time? Like, that's all the kind of things you need to take into consideration. And I really hate, like, I can't give more firm advice because obviously it's a lot of vagaries. But what we're trying to do here is making you think. And I think that's the important thing is you're asking these questions, and the questions we're giving to you are intended to make you and force you to consider why and how you approach these characters. Because often the more questions you ask, the better your story will be when you try and find answers for them.
Yeah.
Especially the question of why. I think why is probably the best. Why questions are probably some of the best questions you can have.
I was gonna say something similar to this. The question that I was asked of my editor, but then I realized that would be spoilers. But
Ooh.
I would say that you have to be very careful with it because personally for me, I have never seen a polyamorous or polycule relationship done well within writing. In fact, the opposite has happened.
I was gonna say I haven't seen one pulled off very well in real life, and there's one that's very proximally close to me that I'm constantly just, like, checking over at, like, you guys okay? Everything okay over there? Just making sure nothing blows up. And occasionally I get responses back that are like, yeah, things are fine. And I'm like, I don't like how you said fine. But that's what really sucks is I have no control over that situation.
Yeah. The main thing that I at least want to stress is how the characters are going to navigate that and whether or not their feelings are going to be genuinely followed through with. Because I would imagine, hypothetically, that a relationship between three women would be the exact same way that you would write any monogamous relationship, just with a third person added on there. And all of the drama that happens with that. Or maybe with the drama of a person who likes one person but not the other. You can
Yeah,
play
that's
with those
actually
dynamics and then
I
eventually
I
have it
actually
settled that all three of them end up getting together. Or maybe they settle for
Mhm.
the two continue dating, but then one of them has the other one on the side, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask about that. Like with this one character getting brought into the already like established couple, is this one person already attracted to both parties, or are they attracted to only one of them?
Are they getting pulled in by one of the two, or are they inserting themselves into one of the two? I didn't phrase that
Right.
properly. Anyway, or are they inserting themselves as in position between the two in terms of like I want to be with both of you? It's like that's an interesting
Yeah.
like I would love it like a dynamic where you have these two girls that are already dating and then you have a third just kind of boldly like burst through the door and is like we're all dating now. It's like wait what? We're all dating now. Just like giving them
Just
no quarter
ghosting
and
Danish
like
Khan.
whirlwind them into a triple relation. You could do that like and the other two are like I mean are you okay with this? I'm kind of like on the fence about it and like they're like constantly in the background like confused. Meanwhile this third person that's like dragging them along completely oblivious to any kind of questions like they're kind of like head empty all action.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun there. Lashizal says I definitely prefer the animated, but that doesn't mean the live action is garbage. Hoping they can take criticism and can get better. Love the stream. Thank you, Lashizal.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And yeah, no, I really hope that they learn really get better screenwriters. That's really what you
Yes.
need the most in this. Like, that would solve not half the problems, but a good third of them. Definitely.
Yeah. I say that's more than half to me.
But yeah, no.
Because dialogue is very important. It's the means by which
Yeah.
we actually get engaged with the characters. And most things in the story can fail, but if your characters are solid, then it's fine.
Well, they don't
But if
even
your
have to get
yeah,
rid of the writers. They can just add someone on that's dedicated specifically to dialogue.
right.
Oh, also, I forgot about for more advice for JK. Is you got to ask yourself what is the tone you're going for with the relationship because you can do a lot of more forgiving stuff if your story is fluff. Like if your story is fluff
Yes.
and it's like characters approaching it from that direction, you can have a much more laid back, drama-free experience where these characters are really just kind of having fun together, doing stuff, and you have a slow build
But if
towards
this
oh we're on love.
is
But if it's a
but if
drama,
this is yeah, if this is in like the same
Yeah.
story where you're doing the whole Ironwood thingy, which I'm assuming.
yeah, I'm
I'm
assuming that
assuming
too.
this is the same. Yeah, I'm assuming this is the same story and not like a different story where you're doing this. Then like, whoo boy, you gotta.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it. Like I'm just like I'm already thinking of the possibility of okay, you have these two
People are
girls that are
saying your mic
dating.
is too loud, Raymond.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back
I'll
away,
go down
back
that.
away.
I can't. It's on my headset.
God damn it.
This is my backup here. I apologize genuinely. But I'm
Lean
already getting this
away.
idea of the two girls who are already in a couple, and then this third one comes along and joins them. But then the whole schism thing that you plan to have happens, and one of the original two is on one side of the conflict, and the two remaining girls are on the other. So the team, those three get split, and so then the remainder of the story afterwards is that outlier girl trying to return back into the thrupplet. Like you could have that
Mhm.
dynamic, and I think that'd be very interesting to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and for heaven's sake, please redraft your script. It's like
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
always redraft, always redraft.
Yeah.
I've
Yep.
said this before, but I got on Raymond's case for barely doing anything with editing and redrafting. And he eventually did it, and his stories were better for it.
Yep. Karma for giving Twibe grief for his setup at the start of the stream. It wasn't Twibe's fault for the setup issues. It was Kaiser. It was
Oh my.
all Kaiser's fault. I'm kidding.
And
Dude,
Devin.
you gave some shade to her too, though. Come on.
It was mostly the
did.
Cretaceous thing. That was really where the shade was.
I got bullied so hard, guys. You have to
Cancel.
Go
Ahead. I'm canceled.
go cancel Raymond. Make
Yeah,
fun of
Raymond
him
is
for
over
something.
party. Raymond is over party.
Don't
Dragon-
be too mean though, but you know.
Dragon Ball Z says, think there's going to be major changes for books 2 and 3. There have to be. There have to
I
be.
mean,
major
yeah.
changes.
If they're willing to change so much in this first season with the first book, they're going to have to be
They
some
fundamentally
changes.
changed Aang as a character. Like, that is
Yeah.
the most central thing they did.
Yes.
You're not going to escape that.
No.
All
You have a
right.
sneaking suspicion JK Network is writing a Charlie, Vaggie, and Emily fanfic. Oh. Huh.
Okay. That's fine.
I don't know. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I haven't
I've
watched Has Been Hotel, but okay, sure. I can.
Yeah,
I guess
I
can
me
see it.
neither. I don't care. I legit don't care about fucking anything Vivzibot related. I just know a lot of people are yelling at her. So there's that.
Yay!
People are gonna yell at
Yelling!
people. People are gonna yell at people
Yelling at women.
regardless.
What? I'm joking.
All right. All right. Well, on that note, let us wind down this stream. Thank you
Yes.
all so much for
Yes.
coming.
No, sorry, hang on. Josh is right. We'll just make you rewatch Eureka 7 AO.
No! 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 Because it's not even canon anymore.
Not with that attitude.
No, it literally High Evolution retcons the entirety of Eureka 7's franchise.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
bad.
Well, what happened is that it's implied that the Eureka from High Evolution made up all of the different continuities in the TV shows, the manga, and the video games.
Because her Renton
What?
died.
Because her Renton died, yes.
And she was trying to create a reality where they could be happy together, but it never
Yeah.
could.
So they
which is weird because in 2 of them, at the very least, they were absolutely happy together, and a third of
so
them,
they were
in a third one, she didn't even have her memories to be happy or unhappy about. So it's like,
so they
makes no
decided to
sense.
decided to pull a fucking future diary?
I guess so.
JK Network
What?
says, will redraft not writing fanfic? The third girl is currently falling for both. The drama I'm working on is having her deal with liking 2 women who are already dating, plus how different they are from him? Who is the him? Her. He meant
Yeah,
her.
I thought they were. Yeah, I think you meant
Okay,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
perfectly fine, but
That's-
also I've
That's some good drama.
yeah, some good drama. Just
Yeah,
be
that's
sure
good.
don't forget the other girl's feelings in the situation.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But yeah, no. High Evolution. It's actually not that bad. Well, the last 2 are not that bad.
Yeah, the first one is garbage.
The first one's awful. You don't even need it. The second one,
Okay.
the second and third ones are okay. It's just there's some bullshit that happens in both of them, and there's a lot of retconning that no one really
You
appreciated.
can watch the first maybe 25 minutes of the first movie
Yeah.
because the first part is all original stuff. And then right after that, you get a clip show, and that clip show is going to last for the rest of the film. But the only
Jesus
changes that they
Christ.
made for the clip show is that Ray and Charles have adopted Renton.
Yeah.
And that's literally
yeah,
all
I
that you
saw
need to
that.
know. You could drop the film after that.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't even make too much of a difference in the actual show.
It really doesn't.
Like the actual, yeah. High Evolution, not good. Better than AO, but it's still not good.
We could
Um,
probably talk about it more in depth in another stream.
We probably could. I could go for hours talking about fucking Eureka
Yes.
7 at this point. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful time. Any things to announce, guys? Anything on your ends?
I am. Oh, go ahead, Twilight. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say that I have nothing because I haven't had a proper computer for the last 2 weeks. But I'm getting my computer in the next day or so, so I will start to work on my Digimon video by then.
Right. And on my end, first off, thanks to everybody here who bothered to watch my response video to Lily Orchard, how she doesn't understand Mary Sue's, And I mean, this chick really, really doesn't understand Mary Sue.
Yep.
If you thought this guy we just watched was obnoxious, you hadn't seen anything until you saw the video I'm responding to. So if you haven't before, go ahead and check it out. Me and Periodic Pete, we had an absolute blast just laying in on this whole freaking video. It was terrible. But if you haven't, go ahead and watch it. It's on my channel. Also subscribe to Periodic Pete. Unfortunately, I'm not able to what was it? I'm not able to make any like new videos next month because I'm just really busy. But there is a live stream that I'm planning on doing really soon next month though. The very first one on my channel. So stay tuned for that.
Woo.
On my end, I've been nose to the grindstone on a couple of different things that you'll be learning about soon enough. But most of all, at the end of this week, I'll be releasing the last of my 8 short stories for the World of Vault Finder. So look forward to that. It is called Rust and Rubble. It's actually already up for pre-order if you want to go get it now.
Oh, it's that one.
Yes, Rust and Rubble, which is an exciting one involving an orc, a goblin, and an archaeologist. Sort of.
Nice.
It's probably my favorite technically. I like them all for the different reasons. I mean, the earlier ones I'm a little less chill on, but a lot after the third one onward, which was I believe Woes of Pride. From Woes of Pride onward, I really love a lot of the stories that I wrote, and I think they're all really fun and interesting. The first two, I think, and there's a reason they came first because I thought they were a little weaker. I wanted to kind of just front load the weak stuff. I think they're still fine, but I don't think they're quite as strong as what ended up coming later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that all said, pick that up and tune in next week for whatever topic we figure it out. If you guys have any ideas, let us know. We can cover videos of any topic whatsoever. So just throw it our way and we'll see what comes up.
Yeah.
Until then, catch you all on the flip side.